giorno di problemi. Tu, la pubblicità non era. Ma tuo papà i problemi non c'erano, perché era sempre qua. E suo figlio ha detto, sì, ringraziava tutti. Lo facevamo in film, ricordo, finivamo tardi, Renato ringraziava uno a uno tutto il tempo, salutava i ragazzi e io con lui spegnevamo la luce in sala grande. Lui spegneva pure in inverno con il suo collo di tela. Ti ricordo che ho carezzato Renato, questo è Pellegrino, io faccio
Oppure c'è una rete primaria, secondaria, primary, secondary, no? Primary, secondary. Ci sono i sottotitoli generati in automatico da YouTube che era primo,
Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti alla conferenza stampa di Why War. Vi presento subito gli ospiti al tavolo, che sono i due interpreti, Irene Jacob e Michel Scott, e il regista Amos Gitai. Allora, attendo le vostre domande. Amos, vorrei cominciare io con una domanda per te. La forza, la grande forza di questo film sta nella parola. Hai fatto uno straordinario lavoro sulla parola a partire dai due testi di cui sappiamo e ecco, vorrei che ci raccontassi un po' di questo approccio poetico più che altro, insomma.
So, thank you first of all for the invitation. We are delighted to be in this beautiful town and this great festival. We still think that we have to speak about cinema, not just in a Netflix pre-prescribed film, but also ask questions, construct poetic gestures. You spoke about poesy. That's the idea of this film. And also not only deal with the intoxicated Israeli-Palestinian relationship, but in a larger question of why war? Why do people ask the question in its more general sense? The film is not actually focused on Israel-Palestine, although they love always to think that they are the center of the world. There is no center of the world. The planet is round. We know since Copernicus. They are important conflict, but they are not the only one on the planet. So, and this film was done very simply with a group of people, my actress that I love, Irene, great, and Misha, and Mathieu Amalric, and Jérôme Kircher, and my great friends, Alex, who brought the Swiss production, and Gilles, and my eternal Laurent Truchot, and my family. So it's a very minimalist piece. It's not a... And we even were joined by Marco and Benny, who did the effort to come at the end to help the film. So the question of why war, or how to construct an answer, you know, I started doing it in January, so it's after October 7. I was very sad. I was very sad, because this country that I love and this region that I love is plunging again in an endless war situation. We are kidnapped collectively by a group of determined people who want to prolong the war. And we would like not to prolong the war. We don't think it's a perspective for anyone. And I spoke with my friend Miguel Moratinos, who did me the honor, who is the ex-foreign minister of Spain and also the deputy secretary general of the UN, to come to take the trouble, take an early flight to see it. So we have to speak out, and the arts is a way to speak out about this question. Why do people make war? I mean, you know, the Europeans, these very smart people, they like to look at us. I'm saying us collectively, the people of the Middle East, like some sort of savage people. But Europe, let's not forget, less than 100 years ago, have managed to burn the entire continent, to kill tens of millions in the worst manners, just to reach the simple conclusion that you can disagree. The French and the German can disagree about subsidies to food. They don't have to start a war, okay? So we collectively, I'm saying Israeli, Palestinians, and people of the Middle East, are still relatively modest, happily, to the atrocities of Europe, but we have to move forward. We have to move forward. We did not, I mean, relatively in numbers, but this is a very sad and bad situation. So again, this kind of cinema that I'm very happy that Alberto Barbera found that it's worth presenting at this beautiful festival, made its way to Venice. It will make, after voyage to Japan, to Sao Paulo, to New York, to many places. And we will keep speaking, putting this question, why do people want to make war? About poetry, you know, poetry cannot be explained, so I cannot didactically explain. It is an intuitive piece. We spoke earlier with journalists, with Irene. We just felt like doing it, so each time we would decide to get it. Marie-José, who worked with me a lot in the past, wrote the scenario, but we actually didn't follow the scenario. We just felt like doing a scene, so we did a scene, and that's it. And we were in Berlin with, and Gilles came, and we wanted to film in the Einstein building in Potsdam, so we went and did a piece in the Potsdam place. And with Alex, who both helped us to do the shooting in Berlin. And then you will see the scene we shot. So the film was shot in 4 different places. In Vienna, we started it in Vienna when Mathieu Amalric came to see me, and we were doing a performance at the Burg Theater on the assassination of Rabin, which was a big event. And then finally we continued with Irene and Misha and Mathieu to Tel Aviv, and we shot the sequences in Tel Aviv. And then we went to Berlin to do the play, so we said we'll do the Berlin sequences, and we ended with a scene that was shot in Paris. So it was like we kind of, it's a kind of a voyage, a poetic, associative, but everything is based on these great two thinkers. Karl Marx probably inspired Albert Einstein because it's a very Marxist piece about money and greed and war industry. And Freud is not. He's about the human soul, about why these smart animals, people want to make war. Well, what's the reason they want to make war? And Freud is trying, you will see, in two different occasions. One, he is actually optimistic about culture. So he said culture is the cure. And then he's actually saying, no, he wrote Malaise dans la civilisation, the uncomfort in civilization, right, Karen? That's the English title? Good. Discontent. And discontent of civilization. And no, he said, not even that, not even that. But, because we'll speak with Miguel, but we cannot be deterministic about history, okay? We cannot. And sometimes the worst low point that we are in will give place to reconciliation, because these people will finally understand that this is not the way to go. They cannot just go killing each other and declaring victory. This is completely empty propositions. There is no victory. And the two groups have to understand it. They have to understand that the proposition for the Palestinians being under Hamas is not a good proposition. There will be no rights for women, no Christians of the Orient, no LGBT, nothing. The Iranians already went this way when they went dancing. They left the Iranian leftists when they went with Khomeini to Iran, and they are stuck with the Ayatollahs. It's not a good proposition. We, the Israelis, have to get rid of this extremist, right-wing, nationalist, racist, ultra-religious government that we have. So the two groups have first to do some cleaning on their stuff, and then maybe a new bridge can be constructed. It's not there, but we have to keep the idea that one day, hopefully sooner than later, it will come. I think it will come. It will come. What is the option? So just to end, because I don't want to take all the time, so the decision I took is not to show images of war in the film, not to show. Because currently, I think that the two, if we look at the Israeli television, they will only show you the atrocities of October 7, the rape of the women, the burning of the kibbutzim, the burning people alive, and all of that. So if I'm a normal Israeli and I see these images, I say, let's kill them all. The Arab networks and Palestinian and Al Jazeera will show you just the destruction of Gaza. So the savagery destruction of tens of thousands of homes in Gaza, the killing of tens of thousands of people that most are not terrorists, are civil children, the putting Gaza into the fact that now there is polio, there is lack of food, lack of nutrition, all of that. So if I'm a Palestinian, I see only these images because they will not show you the Israeli images, I say, let's continue the war. So in a way, I think now the TVs prolong the war. The iconography prolonged the war. So we decided to make anti-war film without the images of war. There is no images of war. And I think that we have to find ways of rebuilding this beautiful region that Minas came, a Palestinian actor from where you have in your village very good olive oil and good tomatoes full of sun, and do this kind of stuff and build something, even in spite of the wounds and the tragedies and the bad memory. We have to build something different. This cannot go on. So in our little community, which we did also in performances, and I've done it now I have to say 44 years since my first film, House. I've done it long time. So it's to really promote or create places that you can have the dialogue on stage. So we are friends off stage, but we create collectively on stage. And what we did now, house in Paris and also in Berlin and also will be in London and Rome, it's a homage to this friendship that we cross the borders. We include Israeli, Palestinian actors together and even Iranian musicians. So we cross all the borders of the Middle East, which only are about hatred and intoxication. We'll try to keep doing it in the modest way that we do. We're aware that we're not changing the Middle East by doing it, but we will try to keep this microcosmos of dialogue. We will not be dragged into some sort of demagogic discussion. We will not be dragged. We will keep speaking and promoting the idea of dialogue. It's the only way. So we are happy to be here. Sorry for my long.
No, it's fine, it's fine. A proposito, così tanti spunti, si potrebbe andare avanti ore, ma a proposito della libertà creativa, no? Di cui parlavi prima, del girare le scene in quel momento, in quel luogo, e alla fine nei titoli di coda del film è proprio dichiarata la collaborazione degli attori nel costruire la struttura narrativa del film. Quindi vorrei chiedere a Irene e a Misha come hanno lavorato insieme a te per restituire questa struttura così complessa e così unica. Irene, vuoi cominciare?
Il faut faire comme ça.
English is better.
Oh, yeah, in English, okay. Well, we didn't do much for the construction, really. As Amos would say, he really wanted the dialogue one by one. So each of us worked individually with Amos on how we could come on this film with a proposition, with a personal proposition. And for my part, I said, well, I don't know. What I know about war is what I watch on television or what I read in the newspaper. And so Amos said, oh, why don't you read on the Pain of Others by Susan Sontag or Three Guineas by Virginia Woolf. And both of them speak really wonderfully on what it is finally to be what should I do about all these images that I see? Is it something that will perpetuate hate, or is it something that will heal? So it's just to say that none of this was about a construction. It was about creating a dialogue, because why war is first a dialogue, is a correspondence between Einstein and Freud. Mm-hmm. So we invented this as a part of a dialogue, where I would say, dear Amos, this is what happened when, and finally, bringing the words of Virginia Woolf, who is also inventing a dialogue with a lawyer, where she speaks about, is why war a question for women? How can we... And so all these questions were discussed together. Misha?
Alors, Amos, il m'a parlé de ce projet et il m'a dit, en français, hein, c'est bien?
Ouais.
En français, non? En français, c'est bien. Et il m'a dit, alors il y a deux lettres, il y a la lettre d'Einstein à Freud et la lettre de Freud à Einstein. Et moi, comme je suis un élève discipliné, j'ai dit, je vais apprendre par cœur la lettre. Et j'ai appris par cœur la lettre. Et quand je l'ai dit devant Amos, je lui ai dit, t'as vu? Il m'a dit, ah, tu as appris la lettre? C'est bien. Et après, on a travaillé. Et après, il fallait avoir de l'imagination. Et avec Amos... il développe l'imagination des acteurs et des actrices, je trouve. C'est très inspirant. Quand je suis à côté de lui, on a envie de proposer des choses et il met comme ça dans un état très sensible. Et ça s'est passé vraiment comme ça. Donc c'était passionnant tout le temps.
I have to say that they are modest, the two of them. They were real partners to the writing of the project, Already with Irene in Shikun, which we showed in the Berlinale, inspired by the text of UNESCO, I basically told her I want to do an homage to UNESCO because Israel was in the period of conformism this terrible revision of the juridical system by the Netanyahu government. And I spoke to Iran, and I told her, pick up some elements, and she did. So now they're being modest. But they were really great partners to do interpretation and to propose. Both Iran and Misha and Mathieu Amalric and Jérôme brought the Ukrainian text. So I love this kind of relation. You know, I don't like executeur. I don't need executive in the bad sense. I want a dialogue. So we did a dialogue with Minas, who is here, who is not in this film, but he wanted to come to Venice. We tried to object, but he still came. So about the Palestinian stonecutter, so he did a fantastic work on the Palestinian stonecutter, and Bahira Ablasi and the other Palestinians. But I like to work so the offstage is also about dialogue, not just what you see on the screen. The offstage is a dialogue. So we check together things. I actually know to take decisions, but I like to hear other people, you know. And so it is a collective work of people proposing things. So it's like I said in the beginning, it's against the over-domination of a strictly written narrative that we just have to perform. No. The offstage is a dialogue, the musicians, the editor who is great. And it's a kind of people from different regions. You know, some of it is done in Tel Aviv, some of done in Berlin, some in Paris, some, etc., etc. And some in Italy. When Marco and Benny and Marco jumped in the last minute, we said, we want to be in. So, okay, please come in.
Also, we explore a lot of things that are not in the film, meaning we tried many other ways. Yeah. So it's really an exploration. What's there in the film is definitely a part of what we explored.
You think so?
Meaning, I'm just saying that it's not like we knew what we were going to do, and that's the film. I haven't seen the film yet, but I'm going to discover.
She didn't see the film. Well, let's speak to her after.
Yeah, okay. No, but I remember sometimes I said, Amos, we can do this, and then finally, you know.
No, you know, actors have to put structure. Yeah. No, but they were great. They were really great.
Ci sono delle domande? Prego, una domanda qui davanti.
And you speak I know you for 40 years, you were my teacher, you spoke always about dialogue. But before the festival, organization published a letter that called to boycott your movie and the other Israeli movie. So what do you want to tell these people?
Basically nothing. You know, I don't want to even extend, because they want that you, Israeli journalists, will do the publicity, and you're trying to do it, but I will not help you, because I've been doing consistent work for dialogue. It is a toxic area, okay? Nobody of them have seen the film. The film actually, most of the people of Palestinians got Israeli money from foundations into the movies. Actually, this film didn't get 1 shekel or euro to support this film. No, it got Alex, who got some money in Switzerland. He got some personal friends who came along. So, okay, you know, we can all be, in a way, my previous film, Rhinoceros after UNESCO, was dedicated to this kind of mob attitude. Mob, you rush with a mob to be conformist. I'm doing non-conformist work with friends and across I don't believe in the borders, and I suggest to everybody, to Israelis, that most of my flashes against were dedicated to critique of my own country. And I think, by the way, the authors that I admire the most, they criticize their own country, you know. We're sitting in Italy, Rossellini, Antonioni, Visconti, you know, the great stuff about fascist Italy. It's great works on their own country. Let's start with our own. I mean, it's very easy to adhere to a kind of a nationalistic discourse. Let's start with our own. So I think that's basically what I suggest to everybody to criticize. They have a lot of work, each of us, to criticize their own country. I've done my modest share over 40 years ago, and I will continue to do it, because the only thing I believe is a joint work, Israeli-Palestinian, and this is also why I did so much work on the legacy of Rabin, because it was the only window of the Middle East that there was a hope. There was somebody who understood the necessity to put this dialogue, but let's not kid ourselves. Rabin was killed by Israeli religious right wing with the help of the Palestinians, because they put bombs in the Israeli, the Jihad, the Hamas, the Popular Front of Liberation, in the Israeli civil centers in Tel Aviv, in buses, which eroded the support to the Rabin government. So they have a percentage in the assassination of Rabin of eliminating the only options we had until now. So let's keep talking, let's keep creating, let's understand that this is the only way we can build something new in the Middle East. Thank you.
Ci sono domande e vorrei chiedere un'ultima cosa, credo che siamo quasi in chiusura. Della struttura del film fa parte anche la musica, e quindi mi piacerebbe sapere come hai, qual era l'idea di includere questi gruppi musicali e la musica come parte integrante della sceneggiatura del film.
I think, you know, as I said, I'm less and less fascinated by tightly written narrative cinema. I don't think, unfortunately, we don't have a lot we used to have. I mean, I can see Casablanca 20 times because it's a masterpiece and it's so beautiful. And the music and the performance and Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. And, you know, when I sit on a normal flight in France, unfortunately, it's the only historical film. I saw it, I think, 20 times. I mean, Billy Wilder. I mean, you have great fools. You have great authors. And I don't see so much great narrative films. Frankly, I'm quite bored. Because it's very obvious. So I'm not going to contribute it. You have enough people who will do it. I mean, they will show it. I want to do another. And I think music, for me, it's an inspiration. So when in the film, I included a piece of Lacrimosa, of Benjamin Britten, you know, who wrote Requiem, the War Requiem. It is a beautiful piece. When I include Kaddish, the Jewish prayer, written by Maurice Ravel, it is a great piece, the prayer for the dead. I'm coming from a civilization, so I respect it. I will use elements always of my civilization. So there was one journalist before, we spoke with Irene. She said, but where comes the idea of moderation in your education? Where do you get it? And since I cannot make any conference without talking about my mother, it's my mother. Moderation, no racism. When she would hear a racist statement, she will go the other side. You can be critical, but no racism, no racism. So I think the cinema, like any form of art that I respect, is a method of education. And we were listening. She made me, she was in her 40s, so she was not caressing me only. She had critical words. And we had a kind of a dialogue. So I think that's the base of creating good human beings. I have 2 kids that I love. They have kids that I love. So we have to to leave some people on this beautiful planet who will continue the work about dialogue, about sensitivity, also listening to music, to looking at the landscape. Not everything is politics, you know. They have to also see the beauty, and the Middle East is beauty. There is a lot of beauty. I mean, we can go in the go to the village of Minas, we went and have a nice dinner with delicious food that his mother is making. We can do other things in the Galilee. Gaza can develop the coast for the Palestinians and build civilized housing. Israel has to compensate the Palestinians for all the property they left behind. There are things to be done. Let's centralize, let's concentrate on what can be created to make a better future. We have done enough wars, it's basta.
Grazie, dobbiamo fermarci qui purtroppo. Grazie molte. Grazie.
Yeah, very, very moving.
Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti alla conferenza stampa di Les ENFANTS APRÈS e vi presento subito gli ospiti al tavolo che sono i produttori Hugo Selignac e Alain Attal. Al mio fianco l'autore del romanzo da cui il film è tratto, Nicolas Mathieu, gli interpreti Ludivine Sagnier, Saïd El Alami, Paul Kircher, Angelina Woreth e Gilles Lelouch e i registi Ludovic Bouquerma e Zoran Bouquerma. Attendo le vostre domande. Volevo cominciare con una domanda molto semplice per i registi. Perché avete sentito vostro questo romanzo e avete deciso di trascriverlo, tradurlo per lo schermo con delle differenze di cui poi magari parleremo?
Appuyez ça. Ok, très bien. Oui, je disais, donc tout est parti de Gilles Lelouch au début, qui nous a invités à déjeuner un jour, en février 2022, et qui a posé une copie du roman de Nicolas Mathieu, une chacun devant nous, qui nous a demandé si on aimerait... déjà, si on avait lu le livre, ce qui n'était pas le cas. On connaissait Nicolas Mathieu, mais on n'avait pas encore lu le livre. Il nous a demandé si on voulait le lire et si jamais ça pouvait nous intéresser de travailler avec lui sur une adaptation. Et la semaine suivante, du coup, on s'y est mis, on a lu le livre. Et je crois que l'histoire de Nicolas Mathieu a tellement résonné en nous, et on a trouvé le livre tellement merveilleux qu'on s'est dit que c'était une opportunité incroyable que de porter ce roman à l'écran. Alors avec peut-être toute la pression que génère le fait de porter un si grand livre à l'écran, mais on avait vraiment l'impression que les personnes dont il était question dans le roman, c'était les gens qu'on connaissait, c'était la France dans laquelle on avait grandi, en fait. Et ouais, il y a eu une espèce d'évidence de travailler sur ce projet. Ouais.
Intanto mi scuso perché non l'ho fatto prima, volevo dare il benvenuto e presentarvi anche altri due attori che sono seduti in prima fila, che sono Louis Memmi e Christine Gauthier. Benvenuti anche a voi. Avete appena citato la provincia, il discorso della provincia. Ecco, la provincia è una dei grandi protagonisti di questo, del romanzo e del film, e se potete raccontarci un po' di questo. La provincia è veramente così vasta, è un mondo a parte, no? Mi sembra, è raccontato anche come un mondo a parte.
Oui, c'est vrai que déjà ce qui nous a beaucoup parlé aussi dans le roman, simplement, c'est que nous, on vient en fait, on a grandi à la campagne, dans le sud-ouest de la France. C'est pas exactement la même France que celle du roman, mais les étés y étaient très similaires. Et je pense qu'on a vraiment aimé dans le livre de Nicolas aussi, c'est la façon qu'il a en fait de parler des classes populaires, parce que c'est quand même de ça qu'il s'agit, de reproduction sociale, mais de le faire avec beaucoup de lumière. Et il y a ce qu'on a aimé, c'est aussi la générosité en fait de l'écriture. C'est vrai qu'à la lecture du livre, très vite on voit des images, on voit presque un film en fait. Et il y a aussi la façon dont il a de même de narrer l'histoire simplement, qui est très cinématographique aussi. Et je crois que ça nous a beaucoup parlé, et ça nous a en fait donné envie de faire un peu la même chose en fait dans la mise en scène du film, et d'essayer de traduire cette chose-là en fait en cinéma. Et l'idée de faire un film effectivement sur la province, nous on vient en fait d'un milieu qui est très similaire en fait avec le milieu d'Antony. Et voilà, de le faire en offrant vraiment à cette histoire qui pourrait être une petite histoire, de lui offrir un véritable écrin de cinéma en fait par la mise en scène. Et c'est ce qu'on trouvait aussi, ce qu'on a trouvé dans le livre en fait, c'est une façon de magnifier quand même ces villas, quoi. Oui, puis je crois que c'est aussi l'idée de remettre au centre la France, qui est en fait la France du plus grand nombre. Et c'est vrai que je sais que Nicolas le disait très bien, l'idée que la France des invisibles, c'est en fait la France du plus grand nombre. C'est vrai que nous, en ayant grandi dans cette France-là, c'est la seule France qu'on connaissait, je crois, quand on était gamin. Donc c'est un peu remettre au centre cette France-là et lui donner un peu une grande histoire de cinéma, même si le propos est dur, parce que c'est vrai qu'il est question de reproduction sociale et l'idée qu'on ne s'échappe pas de la classe dans laquelle on est né, parce que c'est ce qui se passe dans la majeure partie des cas. On ne change pas de classe sociale, et c'est vrai qu'il est question de ça, mais en même temps, il y a... Vu que je pense qu'Anthony, le personnage d'Anthony évolue, c'est-à-dire qu'à travers l'amour impossible qu'il a pour Steph, il y a une... pas comme s'il réalisait, mais en tout cas en grandissant, les années passant, le fossé qui les sépare est un fossé social, en fait. Et on aimait bien l'idée d'incarner ce propos-là, qui est un propos du coup plutôt dur, à travers une histoire d'amour et à travers quelque chose de très nostalgique et de très adolescent. Ouais.
Avrei una domanda per Nicolas. Ogni trasposizione cinematografica di un romanzo implica delle scelte che a volte possono essere dolorose, a volte no per un autore. E quindi volevo chiederle qual è stato il suo rapporto con la trasposizione del suo romanzo, se in qualche modo ha partecipato alla sceneggiatura e che cosa pensa anche dei cambiamenti che sono stati apportati per adattare questa storia allo schermo, ma anche alla visione dei due registi.
Moi, mon point de départ, c'était je voulais que ce soit un bon film. Donc, je ne souhaitais pas... Mon but, c'était pas de m'assurer que le film ressemble exactement au livre. Je n'étais pas le douanier de l'identité du livre en disant « Ah ben là, il y a des différences, ça ne marche pas, etc. » Ce qui m'intéressait, c'est que ça devienne un objet à part entière, une œuvre autonome, et pour peu que ça respecte l'esprit. C'est-à-dire qu'il y ait des changements, des variations, des écarts entre le livre et le film, c'est pas un problème. Tant qu'il y avait le portrait de cette France, cette histoire d'amour, et puis c'était un roman, comment dire, l'histoire de personnages qui cessent d'être des enfants pour devenir des adultes. Donc il fallait qu'il y ait cette dimension-là, qu'on voit le temps passer, qu'est-ce que ça fait à des destins, qu'est-ce qui se passe dans une vallée comme ça, au cours d'une dizaine d'années, au cours d'une série d'étés. Et pour peu que ce contrat minimum soit respecté, moi j'étais disposé à laisser toute liberté aux réalisateurs. C'est leur film, en fait. Et de ce point de vue-là, moi je suis assez ravi du résultat.
C'è una domanda lì davanti?
Bonjour, oui, j'avais une question pour Gilles Lelouch. Je trouve qu'on peut trouver des similitudes entre ce film et votre dernier long métrage L'amour ouf, dans les ambitions, dans le casting, dans l'adaptation justement du roman. Est-ce que c'est le fait d'avoir voulu adapter de votre côté L'amour ouf qui vous a donné envie de proposer ce projet-là aux frères Bouguerma ?
Et puis voilà. Pas exactement, parce qu'en fait, à la base, j'ai rencontré Nicolas autour de leurs enfants après eux, et j'avais l'intention de l'adapter moi et de le faire moi. Et comme je suis très lent et laborieux, j'ai pas du tout avancé sur L'amour ouf, et donc en parallèle, j'avais l'écriture de L'amour ouf, et je voyais que l'échéance reculait pour leurs enfants après eux. Et donc, à regret, j'ai abandonné l'idée de le faire, et je l'ai proposé aux talentueux frères. Voilà.
C'è una domanda? Sì, prego, scusate.
Bonjour. Vous parlez de la France, d'un village de la France, mais j'ai eu la sensation de regarder aussi un film sur le paysage comme le paysage américain. Et à la fin du film, il y a la musique de Bruce Springsteen. Born to Run, c'est aussi une musique en cinémascope, si je peux dire comme ça. Et j'ai eu cette sensation. Je voudrais savoir pourquoi. C'est très intéressant. Je voudrais savoir pourquoi.
Je crois que nous, déjà, on a grandi vraiment avec le cinéma américain, le cinéma hollywoodien. Et on avait envie de proposer un film qui serait populaire, dans le sens peut-être d'utiliser certains effets de ce cinéma-là, en fait, avec lequel on a grandi. Et je crois qu'on voulait pas, en fait, on avait envie de donner à cette histoire-là, qui est une histoire qui se passe dans une vallée de l'Est de la France, on voulait lui donner vraiment un aspect cinématographique et s'éloigner, en fait, de ce qu'on pourrait imaginer de prime abord, qui serait, en fait, qu'on aurait pu être tenté de prime abord de faire un film plus naturaliste. Je crois qu'on avait envie de faire un film plus généreux, peut-être simplement pour le rendre en fait accessible. Nous, ce qui nous a frappé dans l'écriture de Nicolas, c'est vraiment la façon dont, en fait, c'est un livre qui est très social, qui parle de la France, qui est complexe dans une certaine mesure, mais qui est aussi très, très généreux dans son écriture. Et on avait envie de traduire ça simplement à l'écran, et donc on l'a fait avec, je crois, en hommage un peu au cinéma qu'on a aimé nous, et qui nous a parlé quand on était plus jeune. Et je crois qu'on avait envie de... Une chose qui nous plaît, je crois, dans le cinéma américain, c'est la façon dont ils n'ont pas peur d'aller dans les émotions, en fait. Et c'est quelque chose auquel on tenait vraiment. On voulait que cette histoire elle est sociale, mais en même temps, il y a quelque chose de grand public, en fait. Voilà.
Et puis je crois aussi que dans les classes populaires, je crois aussi l'imaginaire américain est très ancré aussi. Je crois que si on se balade dans la campagne et qu'on entend l'oreille dans les maisons, on entend de la musique en anglais, on entend les gens regardent des films, des séries américaines. Je crois qu'on est très imprégné par cet imaginaire-là aussi. Et enfin, je sais que nous, d'autant plus quand on était gamin, les références même de nos parents et tous étaient très très américaines.
Aussi un petit mot peut-être sur Bruce Springsteen à la fin. C'est vrai que je pense que le livre, il nous a fait un peu cet effet-là, un peu comme d'une immense chanson de Bruce Springsteen. En fait, quand on lit le livre, c'est un peu ce qu'on ressent. À la fois, c'est social, il y a une violence sociale, il y a de la violence physique, il y a de l'amour, il y a de l'impossible, et je trouve que c'est en même temps très généreux et ça vient du cœur. Et c'est ce qu'on a ressenti dans le livre et c'est ce qu'on a essayé de traduire, voilà, dans le film, quoi.
Sì, una domanda alla signora.
On parle de cinéma américain, mais justement, j'avais l'impression que vous jouiez avec des codes du western. Donc, je me demandais s'il y avait des westerns en particulier ou des films américains en particulier qui vous avaient inspiré.
Je sais pas, peut-être que celui qu'on avait en tête le plus évidemment, c'est pas un western, c'était peut-être Deer Hunter, juste tout simplement parce qu'il y a, tout simplement, ne serait-ce que pour l'image des hauts fourneaux, qui devait être pour nous même un personnage de notre histoire. C'est vrai que dans le roman de Nicolas Mathieu, il y a des très, très beaux passages, presque d'analyse sociologique. Et nous, on s'est demandé en écrivant comment est-ce qu'on allait rendre ça à l'image. Alors, est-ce qu'on met de la voix off, est-ce qu'on explique? Je crois que ce qu'on voulait, c'était finalement ne pas commenter notre histoire, être à hauteur de personnage, mais en même temps, en filmant ces hauts fourneaux éteints, on s'est dit qu'en fait, tout était là-dedans. En fait. Il suffit de dire que cette image d'usine fermée raconte déjà ce passé, raconte déjà que la génération des pères était liée par cette usine et que celle des enfants est complètement éclatée parce qu'elle n'a plus cette perspective-là de l'usine. Voilà.
Sì, prego.
Par rapport aux interprètes, comment vous les avez choisis? Vous avez déjà quelqu'un dans la tête ou vous l'avez choisi après, pendant le parcours?
Alors pour le casting, pour ce qui est des jeunes, nous on avait vu Paul Kircher dans Le Lycéen, qu'on avait trouvé très très fort. Et ce qui nous a immédiatement séduit chez Paul, c'était à quel point il pouvait être différent en fait de l'Anthony du roman, qui est décrit comme petit, trapu, comme un steak, voilà, qui est bagarreur, etc. Paul avait un côté beaucoup plus rêveur, plus dans la lune, peut-être qui ressemblait davantage aussi au personnage de nos précédents films. Donc on a un petit peu amené de ça dans la narration. Et je crois qu'on aime bien l'idée d'avoir des personnages qui sont un peu plus doux. Je pense qu'on s'est dit aussi que ça permettrait d'entrer plus facilement en empathie avec lui. Et de la même manière, on a retrouvé cette chose-là chez Saïd El Alami, qui joue donc Hassine, qui avait pareil cette douceur, et le personnage peut être voilà un peu a priori de prime abord un peu dur, et c'est vrai qu'il y avait tous les deux en fait ont cette même douceur, c'est quasiment des miroirs un peu inverses, et donc ils ont un peu donc on entre un peu en empathie de la même manière avec les deux, ce qui nous permet de pas vraiment prendre parti. En fait on dit pas Hassine c'est l'antagoniste, c'est le méchant, on se dit c'est deux perspectives différentes simplement, et ils sont séparés par la force des choses. Après pour Angelina, ce qu'on a vachement aimé chez elle, déjà c'est une actrice extrêmement technique. Et c'est la première personne qu'on a vue en casting en fait pour Steph. C'est vraiment la toute première qu'on a vue.
Et on en a vu plein d'autres derrière, mais on n'a jamais pu se l'enlever de la tête, en fait, simplement parce qu'elle ressemblait exactement à ce qu'on imaginait du personnage. Et puisqu'il y avait aussi quelque chose, c'était qu'à côté de Paul, ce qu'on voulait, c'était qu'elle ait immédiatement l'ascendant sur lui à l'image, en fait. Et quand on les a fait jouer tous les deux ensemble, Angelina et Paul, il y avait ce truc-là où Angelina était plus assurée que lui. Donc c'est vrai que ça fonctionnait très bien. Voilà. Après, il y a plein de gens dans le casting. Il y a Christine Gauthier aussi qui jouait, du coup, qui avait joué dans nos films précédents. Louis Mémy qui joue le cousin, qui était un acteur aussi qui nous a beaucoup. En fait, on a été globalement beaucoup impressionnés par les acteurs qu'on a vus en casting. Pour les parents, c'est vrai que c'est Gilles Lelouch qui nous a fait lire le livre à la base. Alors nous, on n'a jamais en fait imaginé Patrick autrement qu'avec le visage de Gilles. En fait, donc c'est marrant, c'est que à la lecture du livre, pour nous, Patrick, c'était déjà Gilles, et c'est vrai que ça tombe bien. Ça tombe bien, ouais. Ça tombait bien. C'était assez évident, non, mais voilà. Non, et puis aussi, je pense que Ludivine, ce qu'on a beaucoup aimé chez Ludivine, c'est des fois, il y a dans les scènes entre elle et Anthony, c'est presque du comic relief des fois. C'est qu'il y a une espèce de légèreté dans leurs scènes, et on aimait bien l'idée que le drame d'Hélène soit porté comme ça avec une certaine légèreté qui, pour le coup, aussi ressemble beaucoup à la vie où on traverse des drames et des choses pas faciles, et pourtant il y a quand même de la place pour la légèreté. Je veux dire, on porte pas sa croix le dos courbé tout le temps, quoi. Il y a quand même des touches de joie, même quand les circonstances sont difficiles, quoi. Mais je crois que Ludivine a apporté ça.
C'è una domanda qui, ma prima vorrei agganciarmi a questa domanda sugli attori e chiedere appunto agli interpreti come hanno lavorato con il regista, se avevano letto il romanzo e se nel riscrivere in parte questi personaggi è stato possibile per loro offrire dei suggerimenti, delle suggestioni personali. Ludivine.
Merci. En fait, le roman de Nicolas était tellement précis, tellement détaillé, que même si, bien évidemment, les frères se sont emparés du récit et en ont fait le leur, c'est vrai qu'on pouvait pas s'empêcher. Moi, je pouvais pas m'empêcher de temps en temps, pour être vraiment sûre d'une scène, d'aller récupérer, J'avais toujours le livre sur moi et j'allais toujours récupérer quelques détails pour surtout ne rien perdre de ce qui était proposé au départ.
Gli altri? Saïd?
Oui, moi j'étais très intéressé par d'aller avec Ludovic et Zoran parce que j'aimais beaucoup leur univers et j'aimais beaucoup leur univers à côté de l'univers du livre de Nicolas Mathieu, et je trouvais ça très intéressant. Ensuite, j'ai beaucoup aimé être avec chacun des acteurs ici parce que c'est des relations qui évoluent sur plusieurs années, et donc c'était très intéressant à travailler ensemble. Et ensuite, quelque chose qui m'a beaucoup intéressé, c'est cette période mystérieuse de l'adolescence, dont les générations au-dessus, les parents, dans le livre, enfin dans le film, évoquent avec nostalgie. Et on a l'impression que c'est comme la maman, elle parle des histoires qu'elle avait à cet âge-là, dans les mêmes lieux que fréquentent les jeunes qu'on voit aujourd'hui. Et puis c'est des histoires similaires, et on voit le père avec sa moto qui est encore dans le garage, et on a l'impression que c'est cette période-là des 14 ans qui était un peu le moment, moi c'est l'impression que j'ai eu, où c'était le moment où ils se sont sentis le plus vivants, et donc ça m'a intéressé de plonger dans cette période-là de l'adolescence, et donc de la manière dont, avec l'insouciance de cet âge-là, ils étaient dans cette réalité qui est ce lieu-là où ils habitent, mais ils l'oubliaient parce qu'ils ont un désir à cet âge-là, un désir de vivre des choses excitantes et de vivre absolument, et donc ça m'a intéressé, et j'ai beaucoup aimé travailler ça avec Ludovic, Zoran et le lien avec le livre, c'était vraiment très bien.
Angelina.
Eh bien, j'ai trouvé que le personnage de Stéphanie était très intéressant parce qu'elle n'est pas tout à fait adulte et pas tout à fait enfant. Elle est dans un moment de bascule entre les deux. Et c'est un personnage qui rêve beaucoup d'ailleurs, qui rêve beaucoup de s'échapper, qui a de grandes ambitions. Et tout ça, ça me touchait dans son personnage. Et ce qui a été intéressant de travailler avec les frères pendant le film, c'est que j'ai l'impression que dans le livre, elle était un petit peu plus dure, un petit peu plus fermée. Et je pense que c'était un peu plus difficile d'imaginer que potentiellement, il pouvait se passer quelque chose entre les deux personnages, entre Anthony et Stéphanie. Et avec les frères, on a essayé de trouver un endroit où, en fait, c'était libre à la personne qui regardait le film de décider et de ne pas faire de Stéphanie un personnage ni peste, ni trop prétentieuse ou qui était dans un truc juste de rejet avec le personnage d'Anthony, mais qui voyait quelque chose de familier, de rassurant chez Anthony. En même temps, l'impossibilité de mener une relation avec lui parce qu'il représente tout ce à quoi elle veut échapper, en fait. Et voilà, c'était super de travailler avec les frères. C'était génial.
Et Gilles?
Et non, mais en fait, pour revenir à votre question, il n'y avait pas de choses à proposer particulières parce que déjà dans le roman de Nicolas, mon personnage était tellement bien décrit et les frères lui ont magnifiquement rendu hommage à travers le scénario. Donc j'ai suivi sincèrement ce qui était écrit, les dialogues qu'ils ont composés, initiés par Nicolas à la base. Et moi j'ai eu beaucoup d'appétit, beaucoup de reconnaissance même à pouvoir jouer ce père taciturne, enfermé en lui-même, probablement dépressif, ce qui n'était pas diagnostiqué dans les années 90 parce qu'on n'arrivait pas à voir les psys, autrement on passait pour un fou. Mais en fait, ces gens qui n'ont pas beaucoup d'espoir, que le temps est un peu figé et ils n'ont plus de rêves, ils n'ont plus de... Voilà. Et en même temps, c'est des héros du quotidien qui vont travailler, qui se sacrifient à un endroit. Et je trouve qu'il y a beaucoup de poésie dans ce personnage à la fois violent, rustre, mais en même temps qui aime tant, mais qui aime mal. Voilà.
Et Saïd?
Répétez la question.
La domanda era se interpretando questo personaggio hai guardato contemporaneamente il romanzo e la sceneggiatura e se hai avuto la possibilità di offrire delle tue suggestioni personali nella costruzione di questo personaggio.
Comme a dit Gilles, c'était super bien écrit dans le roman. Moi, je l'avais lu il y a 3 ans, donc bien avant le tournage, bien avant le casting. Et en fait, c'était très clair. Et le personnage d'Assine, il y avait une part de moins un peu, parce que ses parents sont marocains, donc il est fils d'immigrés, il est première génération. Et donc, il y avait quelque chose où je comprenais un peu sa colère, sa rage, son incompréhension de l'endroit où il était, du poids qu'il avait, et qu'il ne savait pas en fait où la mettre. Et ensuite, entre Nicolas et les frères, ils sont très très précis. Bon, lui à l'endroit du roman, eux à l'endroit de la réalisation et de la direction. Ils savaient ce qu'ils voulaient. Et ensuite, moi, ce que j'ai essayé d'apporter, c'est juste le plus de vérité possible. Hein. Rien de fou.
C'è una domanda qui, il signore qui davanti.
Ciao, grazie. Wow, that was loud, sorry. Thank you very much for this film. I think it was wonderful, absolutely amazing, especially to find the balance between this, actually the poetry that Gilles was talking about, not just on his character. And my question is for all of you, I think, how do you think you manage to find a balance between this violence that is very raw in many moments and this tenderness and vulnerability of the characters they have also. I think this is not easy to manage, and I guess must be also in the novel. So I was quite surprised to see this was so well balanced in the movie. And yeah, just would like to hear what you think about that. Thank you.
Bonjour. Je pense que c'est un des objectifs de l'acteur pour n'importe quel projet, c'est de trouver l'humanité de son personnage. Et l'humanité ne peut naître que de contradictions. Ce sont les contrastes qui sont les plus intéressants. Et notamment par rapport à la violence, à la douleur qu'il traverse. Ce qui est intéressant, c'est la dignité avec laquelle il les traverse. Moi, c'est ce que j'ai essayé de trouver, c'est-à-dire que même si effectivement mon personnage est soumis à ce déterminisme social, elle essaie quand même de préserver la joie, de préserver l'espoir. Mais je pense que c'est un travail ce travail d'harmonie, c'est un travail qui se recherche un peu dans chaque film.
Je crois qu'aussi c'est peut-être le propos, et c'est un propos qui est violent, c'est qu'on parle de déterminisme social, il y a quelque chose de très froid, de très dur là-dedans, mais en même temps cette histoire c'est aussi une histoire de nostalgie de l'adolescence, et il y a tout un truc avec l'utilisation de la musique, nous on a essayé de faire un truc où on avait envie même qu'on puisse ressentir à nouveau le sentiment amoureux tel qu'on le ressent quand on a 15 ans, et c'est vrai que tout le discours social du film s'articule quand même autour de cette histoire d'amour et autour de l'adolescence, et donc c'est habillé un peu de références musicales et d'adolescence, donc forcément ça adoucit ce propos, même si c'est un propos dur. Ouais.
Siamo in chiusura, ma volevo brevemente chiedere ai due produttori, appunto produttivamente, che esperienza è stata questa?
L'expérience du film, vous voulez dire?
Si.
Ah, si. Nous, c'était une longue expérience, parce qu'en fait, on a lu le livre de Nicolas Mathieu en 2018. Et comme Gilles vous l'a expliqué, au début, ça devait être pour lui. Puis après, il a choisi, il nous a fait découvrir Teddy en disant « J'ai trouvé les réalisateurs adaptés pour réaliser ce grand film ». Et nous, on avait un objectif qui était, je pense, l'objectif qu'on avait fixé à Nicolas Mathieu quand on a réussi à le convaincre de nous céder les droits, c'était de vouloir faire un blockbuster d'auteur, un petit peu comme les films américains indépendants. Donc c'était de financer un film très ambitieux pour offrir les moyens de la mise en scène qu'avaient en tête les frères Boukarma, et aussi un petit peu ce qui est très rare en France sur le cinéma d'auteur, mais qu'on retrouve vraiment dans les films américains, c'est d'avoir les moyens aussi d'avoir beaucoup de musique. Et donc du coup on a eu la chance avec Alain de convaincre Warner Bros et tous nos autres partenaires de nous accompagner dans cette aventure ambitieuse, folle, et ça y est, à toi. Voilà.
Oui, en fait, comment on s'est accaparé le projet. Nous, en fait, je crois qu'on avait, ce qui est important de bien comprendre dans notre position, c'est qu'en fait, on avait ce qu'il y a de meilleur en termes d'histoire et de positionnement et de réflexion sociale. Il y avait rien à dire tant c'était pointu le roman de départ. On a eu des scénaristes, réalisateurs très inspirés qui ont écrit une adaptation en tirant vraiment la substance moelle et en faisant une vraie proposition. Donc tout ça, qui est le vrai boulot du producteur, en fait, on partait sur une base où on est largement satisfait et limite euphorique de la base de ce qu'on a. Donc du coup, on s'est attaché à vraiment permettre au film d'avoir une espèce d'aura et d'aller dans le sens, effectivement, de ce qu'ont déjà dit Zoran et Ludo, de ce qu'on a expliqué, c'est-à-dire donner de l'espace, de l'ampleur, donner du souffle, contenir à l'intérieur de 2h15 quand même les temps longs. Et ça a été une vraie discussion dans les montages, de savoir garder des moments qui sont des temps longs. Donc voilà, la base était du caviar, et nous, on a été des Monsieur Plus partout pour permettre aux choses de se faire, pour offrir la crédibilité aux garçons de l'ambition folle qu'on avait de ce film.
Grazie, grazie, dobbiamo fermarci qui. Molte grazie a tutti.
Merci.
Good morning, everyone. It's really a great honor and a pleasure, of course, introducing here the wonderful team of families like ours. And I'm just going, starting actually with the director. He's here at the center of the table, Academy Awarded wonderful filmmaker Thomas Winterberg. Accompanied by his amazing cast, introducing them as you see them on the table. Amaryllis August, Albert Rudberg Lindard, young generation in the film. Nikolai Likas here, Paprika Steen on the other side. Helene Reingard Neumann, Magnus Millang at the end of the table, and Esben Smed there also. So again, welcome to Venice. Please allow me, before opening the floor to the press here, of course the film, and I keep calling it a film, deals with many crucial topics and questions that are relevant for our time. But before entering into the content of the film, I would really like to ask Thomas how he has managed, or what has been the challenge of working with a long format like that of a series or a TV series, and making it as powerful, emotional, meaningful, just like a film.
Well, it was very much like making a grand movie. And this is how we approached this work. Then we split it into some episodes, and we heard some tricks about some cliffhangers and stuff from people who know about television. But basically for us, it was a long, grand tale like a movie. The challenge was that the shooting days just kept coming. There was just so many of them. And it was, but it was interesting artistically, because at some point you stop being nervous and the hysteria dies out and you just keep shooting. And that's, creatively speaking, a very interesting point, actually.
Thank you. And of course, if there are questions from the floor, we can go back and forth.
That's it?
Then I continue with this conversation. Really, there's so much to talk about. And you said it's a grand narrative. It deals really with a set of topics. Each of them would require a long discussion. But first of all, climate change, migration, and these all happening in Denmark, which is usually seen as one of those few countries which seem to be kind of protected or a bit away from this, kind of crisis. Again, how has it been developed in such a way that through the lens of something happening in Denmark, we from all different parts of the world feel somehow engaged with the same crucial questions?
Well, to start with, we tried... There you go. To start with, we tried to create something as specifically Danish as possible, because I've learned that specificity is what travels. When things become generic and general, nobody cares. So we're hoping that the world will find an echo in what we did. Secondly, the series we did here is about these characters. No people are alike. No one would react similarly, but hopefully it raises the question of who would you fit into your lifeboat if you only have 3 seats left? And other questions, existential questions, which we have been occupied with. But underneath the whole thing, of course, there's a worrying that I share particularly with my children about this planet. One of them said the other day that it's as if we're on the first class of Titanic, And there's a lot of water coming in on 3rd and 4th class, but we just keep eating and keep partying, and nothing happens because we don't want to know. I just read a survey of Denmark saying that a lot of youngsters really want to change things, but they don't. They keep buying things, they keep flying. So it's an interesting human thought, an interesting human thing that we're doing the best we can, but right now it doesn't seem to be good enough. So obviously these thoughts have been part of this journey, but primarily it's been about creating the lives of these characters.
And in relation to that, I would like to engage the group of actors and actresses in the conversation, starting in fact with the young generation, so Leonard and Amaryllis, who is acting here for the first time. So of course, how you felt somehow representing exactly these young people dealing with something which happens in sort of in a future that is also already here in the present, and how was to work with more experienced actors?
This is my first project ever, so I felt I was in the safest hands possible. I've been surrounded by very nice and very talented people, which really helped me a lot through the process. And regarding the environmental issues, I feel that especially my character Laura and Elias, they don't really deal with they're just kind of in the middle of the whole crisis. They can't do anything about it. They're just gonna have to deal with the consequences and the difficult choices that they're left with. Yeah.
Should I turn this on?
Yes, please.
Probably. There we go. Yeah, I guess as Amaryllis says, that Elias and Laura, they are young people, and when we meet them, they're ready to graduate high school, so they stand before a choice to what they're going to do with their lives. And this backdrop of the rising water levels, of course, makes them very hard choices, because, as Thomas said, you need to fit your people into your lifeboat, and you want to protect someone, and you want to have people you can trust.
And the other cast here who has not only more experience, but also somehow in the film is the group of people that should take decisions, or they are also the ones that somehow should know what to do, but they equally seem lost. So how all these, of course, you've worked with Thomas, most of you, several times, but somehow how this was part of the script and how was it coming along with the project? Because there's really a long process we are seeing through the different episodes. Can you repeat the last? Yes. How was part of the script and how was developed along the process through the episode? Was it something, this evolution of the characters, its development, their crisis, was it something that was already set in the script from the very beginning?
I think...
Yeah.
No worries. I just think from the beginning it was, the script was about this dilemma. I mean, it's a burning house and you have to get out of it now. This is the basic story, and you can't really think of how did we get to this point, because that ship has sailed. This is just about survival, and that's the beauty of the story, first off.
As I understood your question, you asked me if something developed under the shooting. I mean, if something. I have to say, and it's not because I want to work with Thomas for the rest of my life, but he makes amazing scripts together with his co-writer. He is. It's like sometimes. First time I read it, I was crying my eyes out. Not because it was only sad, but it was very poetic and very romantic also, and very touching. And I wrote to Thomas first time I read it that it was like reading the brothers Lionheart for the first time. I don't know what it was about it. It's about a new world. You know, you wake up and then the world is new. And it's when you're in my age, you kind of fear for your kids about the new world. And if the catastrophe happens, or if I don't know, the explosion happens, there's a new world and our kids has to go into that world. And even talking about it, I get like, oh, and it touched me in that way that this is the new world. How are we all gonna live in it? How are we gonna do? And because it's from so many part of society, you know, we have the rich and the poor, we have the middle class, we have kids, we have older ones. It's just all in there and intertwined with each other. I thought it was very, very moving. Now, that's how I felt about the script. So
there's definitely a job for you.
Yeah, I think so. I'm getting old, you know, so I need to.
Yeah, I don't know if Magnus and Esben want to say something, then Elaine here on my side.
Yeah, I felt that it was very, very moving reading the script, and a very intense story. And so were the shooting days. It was very intense compared to the last time we worked together. And it was close to the script, but when we shoot, you have your own film in your head. And it's, you experience Thomas has his very precise and detailed emotionally vision that comes out during the shoot. And that goes for every time I worked with him.
I totally agree, and I had the, I don't know why, I had a picture of, we're all playing in this band, and then suddenly, when it all comes together, Thomas puts, it's like, he puts electricity to it, and then it becomes like a real band instead of we're just doing it analog before. So that was just amazing to watch it and see all things come together, and then see all the things we talked about in the process was there, and then a lot more that I didn't expect. So. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a beautiful picture. I think it really gives the sense of. Also, when we first saw the film, we had the feeling that it was really like, you know, an orchestra in a way, that everyone was playing a different instrument, a different note, but there was some kind of amazing coordination and natural evolution in this process. So never with a sense of having a pause that was not needed. So. Elena, I let you speak last, but of course You're also part of the team and you've been in it for a long time too.
Yeah, because I have known about this project for, I think, 6 or 5 years now, because I know Thomas personally. So my process in making this part was maybe a little different, but actually, I have read it, throughout these years and experienced how this, for me, this series is obviously about the crisis, but as Paprika said, it's also about us getting to know this new world we have to deal with. And I have a job that is different from acting. I'm also a priest back in Denmark, and I know that the word crisis actually in Greek, Old Greek, means change. And I thought a lot about that during this TV series, because this is obviously about change in characters, relations, and feelings. Yeah.
Thomas, do you want to add something on that?
You're so smart and so clever. I love it. And so beautiful. And no, that's so nice. She teaches me a lot of things. And also about this project. And she did throughout. Like, for instance, the first draft, which was at a very difficult time in our life. She came out to me weeping, disturbed, impressed slightly, but mostly disturbed. I said, Thomas, I think you're suffering from a depression. We need hope. And so we added hope and resilience and bravery. And at the end of the day, this is what moves me the most in this show. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, a question here from the floor.
It's working. Hello? Yes.
Hello.
Hello. My compliments for the movie. I'm Gaia Simeonati. And what I really liked in the movie, in the series actually, is that your capability of being a visionary, in a sense that you always show something that maybe we know inside us, but we never figure it out, no? So this is happening with sort of clairvoyant people, in a sense. I wanted to know, for once, that you show that Europe can go in a reverse migration. We feel that we are the rich people and that we are safe and sound in Europe, but it's not like this. I wonder if you had a basis, a scientific basis of tsunami or flooding happening in your country or in Danish or on Northern Europe, which I don't know. And if you can tell me something about the music, because I see it was like present somehow. Thank you.
Well, obviously, there is no science really undebatable about the future. So it was difficult to do our research. We did know a lot of research, like a massive amount of research combined with guessing. How would this realistically unfold? And to begin with, we decided that the most realistic scenario for a kingdom, a shire like Denmark, is that we would get out of there before the water would arrive. But we talked to a lot of people from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we talked to scientists and so forth. But at the end of the day, this is and will always be a thought experiment, trying to mirror how we would behave as human beings, and not how we're necessarily going to behave, because we don't know. We know that in crisis, there's regression. People become more aggressive, less empathic, more greedy, more protective of their closest. We know that the condition of loving today in young relationships is a lot about how does this partner satisfy me instead of how can I satisfy my partner. We know a lot of things, but we don't know about the future. So what we had to do mostly was guessing and trying to navigate in something that felt real to us.
Yeah, and if I can follow up on that, switching a little bit from the content side to the actual making of this work, because in fact it's a science fiction work in a way, yet it looks very realistic. So you have also to balance the contribution of technology or visual effects with the actual kind of theatrical acting and real...
Let me remind you, this started 7 years ago. And at that time, my friends was like, Thomas, this sounds crazy. This is like a crazy sci-fi thing. Sisse, my producer, Kasper, Studio Canal, TV2, a few people believed in this, but it sounded crazy. Then there was a pandemic, and we had to remove scenes from our script because they were similar to what happened in this pandemic. Half of the script took place in Kiev, then a war broke out, then we had to rewrite out of Kiev. And now today, when this show will open in October in Denmark, there'll be much more water on the fields of Denmark than we could ever afford making in CGI. So the world have changed while we did this, which is a little worrying, obviously. But again, I think what's important here is how we can cope. These youngsters are supposed to show us how we can create coping strategies and remain optimistic, and how we can settle. I talked to a professor in psychology, and he said, oh, empathy disappears in crisis, and you become aggressive and all that, but it comes back the minute you settle. It'll all reappear. That's how human spirit is, which is kind of beautiful and hopeful.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't think I answered your question.
No, but that's exactly what I wanted you to get.
But somewhere in there you can
yes.
find something or whatever. I'm sorry.
No, and in fact, because there's this, again, magic in combining what is real, what will be maybe real or maybe not. And at the same time, this sense of cinema that stays there, you know, we can see through this work also your previous films and a lot of sense of grand narratives, as you've said at the beginning. Did you have anything in mind, or any writer, any novel, any text that somehow, where did you get this idea from first? It's a crazy idea, as you said, but...
Well, my clever wife have taught me that it's called getting an idea. It's not something you can prepare or buy or stealing. You can, actually. You can steal ideas. That's actually possible. So I don't know where it came from, but I know I was in Paris, and I did not feel very welcomed by Paris. I'd been there for a year, and the local cafe still didn't know my name. And it was Sunday, and I missed my daughters. And I started to think about their worrying about the future. And then this idea arrived somehow, this thought experiment. But since then, Paris has been very welcome.
And what is the project with this series? Now, of course, being a series, again, there's the challenge that we would probably not see it in theaters, as we've seen your previous films, or maybe we will see it also in theatrical release.
Do you mean movie theaters?
Yes.
I don't think so. That's a question for the producer.
We're here. No,
it's not a question for the producer? Well, you keep calling it a film, which is interesting. We do as well, because we don't know how else to do. We don't know shit about making television. We learned a little, also in the hard ways, by doing this. But we don't even know where to win things, and, or to compete in cinema, or, you know, it's like... This is a new thing, and we're new in Venice, so it's all newbie, and it's all fantastic, and so far it's going well. But we have approached this as one of our movies, and Centropa, Studio Canal, TV2 have been generous enough to provide the same budget, just longer, bigger, for this amount of minutes. So, which I think is so important for this show.
Yes, and also I'm happy you say that, because also as the festival, as the group of people watching this film, we were really looking at the series as a film, as watching a film. And it really succeeded in, and it succeeds in making a change also in the format and in the reception of visual images. So they're still film images.
So Alfonso's series is 7 episodes as well, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's the new shit.
So it's the new length.
7 episodes. There you go.
And yes, please.
It's becoming sort of a private conversation. I'm sorry. I'm curious to know if you're working on other visionary projects. If you have new ideas?
I do have other ideas. I am working on things. I don't know which one I'm going to do, which worries me, because I've had this promise to myself that I should know my next project before the premiere of the existing project, which leaves me with about 2 hours to finance and put together my next thing. So actually, no, seriously, I'm worried about that. But there's a lot of things going on. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing, to be honest.
I think there was another question here, maybe a last one there. Yes. Oh, 3.
Oh, thank you. Compliments for the movie. For me, it was very disturbing that you reversed the role of the host to become a refugee. And I'm very interested. Do you anticipate, what is the reaction of the Danish public that you anticipate? Do you think they're going to be insulted by it, or do you think they're going to see a sense of humor? Or
I think they're going to call it an epic masterpiece. No, I have no idea. I really have no idea. I may know my country, but I don't know it that well. You never know. But obviously, it's about their country, but it could be about any other country. I don't think it's going to be that different, but I don't know. Help me here, guys.
I'm just proud that it's Danish because it's talking to my crowd. It's asking the question to my country and to the population of Denmark, which is always, when it's close to home, you feel obliged to do something, hopefully, and look at yourself and look at your values and stuff like that. I think but of course it can speak to any. Yeah, of course, any population in the world, but especially in the western part of the world, and how we approach these issues.
But does it blame a particular group of people? It just blames how things are. I mean, or do you think? Okay.
So hopefully this will not play as a political provocation, because it's not. It's not meant to be a shout out about the Syrian refugees. We're trying to remain existential, and we're trying to do so by making a dive into some very specific characters and how they specifically react. And that can raise some questions, that can raise political questions, but those questions are not ours, those are yours. I was very proud when we did The Hunt back in the days, and it moved from the cultural sections of the newspapers into the political sections of the newspapers, the debate section. And I'm hoping this to happen as well, but this is beyond our control, and this is not what we started out doing. We're just showing you these characters and how they would react, and then you'll have to take it from there.
Thank you. Maybe we have time for one last question here.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to ask you, you spoke about change, maybe climate change, but there's change in the character as well. So they start as good people, and then I'm curious because like an innocent life is taken, it's by mistake, but I'm curious if there's like how you approached, and also they're the victims, but somehow also they're responsible for, they're not the completely responsible, but still I'm curious like if there's how you approach the like good and evil and how the characters will cope with the environment, and if they have to do something evil to survive.
I think if you look at the people killing an innocent soul in this movie, we're trying to portray the regression of the human mind in the moments of crisis, the fear, the aggression, and all of that. What I think is important to say here is that they do the best they can, like we all do. It's not going really well. We're buying more than ever. We're flying more than ever, but we're doing the best we can. So I forgive these guys, and I forgive everyone. Someone cutting themselves is doing it because this is the best they can do. It might be bad, but it's still the best they can do. And that's how it works for these guys. They're trying to protect themselves, they're fearful, and they do a big mistake. But they're doing the best they can. And this is the starting point for all of my characters.
I was thinking, what I love about the script is that you understand all the characters. I mean, their actions and the demeanors they come from completely different walks of life, and they have completely different reasons for how they want to survive and how they're going to pull through this. But you completely understand their actions all the time. And I love that you can understand that this is, everybody has a hardship in so many ways. I love that.
Thank you very much. I think we have to wrap up this conference. Once again, best of luck for this amazing project to Thomas and the cast.
Buongiorno e benvenuti alla conferenza stampa di Campo di Battaglia. Vi presento subito gli ospiti al tavolo, a partire dai produttori: Paolo Del Brocco, Rai Cinema, Simone Gattoni, Cavac Film, al mio fianco il cosceneggiatore Alberto Taraglio, gli interpreti Federica Rosellini, Gabriel Montesi, Alessandro Borghi e il regista Gianni Amelio. Allora, vi ricordo che il film sarà nelle sale con 01 Distribution il 5 settembre. Attendo le vostre domande. Vorrei solo cominciare per rompere il ghiaccio con una domanda per Gianni Amelio. È evidente quanto questo film sia in grado di dialogare con il presente. Si parla di due temi di cui purtroppo, con cui purtroppo abbiamo ancora a che fare, che sono intanto soprattutto la guerra, poi insomma una pandemia da cui siamo da poco usciti. Ecco, vorrei delle tue riflessioni su questo e che cosa è stato così urgente per te da raccontare in questo film.
Va bene? Sentiamo? Ma io ho un modo di lavorare che probabilmente non è condiviso dagli altri registi. Vale a dire, io non penso. Non penso, io sento nelle viscere le cose e quindi non parto da un tavolino dove metto delle idee una appresso all'altra perché le ho sentite dire, perché l'attualità racconta questo, perché devo fare riferimento a questo argomento perché questo argomento tira. È proprio il contrario, mi è testimone il mio cosceneggiatore Alberto. Non a caso io lavoro quasi sempre con Alberto, che conosco da credo 40 anni, 50, che mi sopporta proprio in questo mio modo di lavorare. Diciamo che io e Alberto fingiamo di scrivere anche 6-7 versioni diverse della sceneggiatura e Alberto sa che poi il film sarà un'altra cosa. E lo sanno gli attori, che la mattina, quando vanno al trucco, aspettano il foglietto che gli arriva sempre, ogni mattina, dove c'è la scena nuova, vero? Vero? E non si scandalizzano più, assolutamente. Ormai aspettano, guai se io non gli mandassi la scena nuova, cioè avrebbero paura di girare la scena vecchia, quindi avrebbero paura che io non sono in forma in quel momento, no? E una volta mi capitò con Jean-Louis Trintignant, che era abituato ogni mattina a ricevere le battute, che andavano tradotte in francese però. E una mattina, dato che lui mi guardò e mi disse non ho ricevuto niente di diverso, quindi faccio la scena che è scritta, e io gli dico, sai perché? Perché non ho alcuna idea. Je n'ai pas d'idée aujourd'hui. E lui mi rispose, ça m'étonne beaucoup. Mi meraviglio molto. E quindi l'eccezione confermò la regola. Lui era abituato, intanto era abituato a fare dei film dove gli davano grande libertà. E questa libertà l'ha trovata e cosa mi ha detto? Scusate se faccio questo. Un giorno mi disse, anzi il primo giorno mi disse, io ho fatto 62 film, tu stai facendo il primo, ma in tutti i 62 film io ho avuto bisogno di un regista, Quindi fai il regista, non ti cullare sul fatto che c'hai l'attore esperto e professionalmente, diciamo, importante. E quindi mi ha costretto a fare il regista. Come sempre sono andato fuori tema.
Torniamo all'argomento. Un film di guerra senza la guerra, un film di guerra senza immagini di guerra.
Ma le immagini di guerra sono usurate e paradossalmente sembrano oggi irreali, cioè perché le vediamo troppo. Cioè noi ormai siamo abituati a guardare la televisione che quasi in diretta tutti i giorni e tutte le sere ci manda bombardamenti, feriti, morti, ma non parlo solamente di quello che accade, poniamo, a Gaza o in Ucraina. Ci sono anche altre guerre, perché penso che sia una guerra anche l'affondamento di un gommone, cioè le immagini di morte, dico io, vengono consumate in situazioni che non sono, per fortuna, quelle della sala cinematografica, perché la sala cinematografica, secondo me, è un tempio. Dovrebbe essere considerato il tempio della goduria del cinema. Quindi quando si entra in una sala cinematografica si entra magari anche togliendosi le scarpe, togliendosi il cappello e stando attenti a ricevere delle emozioni. Quando si sta a casa c'è la televisione accesa comunque sempre, no? E si cena, si usa il telefonino, si fa la vita di tutti i giorni, si parla con i figli e intanto arrivano immagini e suoni di guerra. Ecco, questo provoca un'assuefazione terribile alla guerra e al concetto di guerra, perché in quel momento noi non siamo in grado di ragionare, perché subiamo le emozioni invece di parteciparle, no? Ecco, questo è un film che non va visto in televisione, va visto in una sala cinematografica, dove arriva la guerra arriva nel mio film, c'è la guerra, molto più che in un film cosiddetto di guerra, perché questo non è un film di guerra, è un film sulla guerra. E il fatto che sia un film sulla guerra aumenta la forza emotiva del film, che è tutt'altro che predicatorio o pesante o, diciamo, fatto per un comizio. Non è vero, perché è fatto sulla pelle mia e dei personaggi. Avendo io nel film non solo questi 3 attori meravigliosi, ma anche un gruppo sterminato quasi di attori che fanno magari una posa, dicono una battuta. C'è un tale che sta lì vicino a mia nipote, anche mio nipote lui, che dice, fa la parte del soldato calabrese e dice una frase, dice delle frasi bellissime. Dice: questa lettera dovete darla al prete perché ci ha insegnato le preghiere. Io per quello che vedo vorrei bestemmiare. E poi dopo gli arriva a dire: ma a uno che bestemmia lo seppelliscono nel Camposanto? Gli arriva questa cosa, no? Cioè, voglio dire, io ho voluto per ogni anche cosiddetta piccola parte scavare col mio meraviglioso casting, che non so se è qui al festival, Maurilio Mangano, scavare nelle regioni italiane e ho scoperto questi attori meravigliosi, ognuno in un punto dove lui conosce la sua lingua, no? C'è il soldato che viene dalla Puglia, che a me mi commuove quando parla con Borghi, perché gli dice la cosa, cioè quando guarisco magari vieni a mangiare a casa mia, oppure il soldato valdostano, a me mi fa morire come parla questa mescolanza di italiano e di francese, no? E io vorrei che fossero magari in segreto tutti quanti qua. Veramente io sento un po' il bisogno di rivederli, questi ragazzi, che non lo so se li vediamo poi nel giro che faremo, credo di sì, ma mi piacerebbe che qualcuno stasera nella proiezione si presentasse come già è avvenuto, C'è un attore che mi ha salutato, mi ha detto grazie per il film, ed è un attore che ha già lavorato, diciamo, che io non avevo riconosciuto quando ho girato il film. Sono uscito di nuovo fuori.
Allora, se ci sono delle domande, alzate la mano, altrimenti continuo io, e a questo punto vorrei passare la parola ad Alessandro Borghi e Gabriel Montesi. Amelio continua a ripetere quanto gli piaccia dirigere gli attori, e quindi vorrei sapere da lui come avete lavorato con lui, come avete costruito questi personaggi che sono quasi, come dire, le due facce della stessa medaglia, e poi sentiamo anche Federica. Alessandro, vuoi cominciare tu?
Allora, io parto dicendo che non ho mai conosciuto nessuno come Gianni Amelio da quando faccio questo lavoro, e è stato veramente la benzina di tutto il processo creativo di questo film per me. Abbiamo iniziato a parlare del film forse 1 anno e mezzo prima di andare sul set, tanto tempo prima. E poi ogni tanto mi arrivava un messaggio e mi diceva: ci vediamo 2 ore per parlare del film, e o al bar o nella cucina di casa sua ci mettevamo lì a spulciare i personaggi, le dinamiche. È stato un processo lungo, meraviglioso, davvero sempre sfidante, nel senso che Gianni non viene mai a dirti ho trovato una soluzione a una cosa, ti dice cosa pensi se, quindi ti responsabilizza rispetto ad una scelta e ti rende soprattutto parte del processo, che è una cosa fondamentale per me per fare questo lavoro bene. E quindi poi questa cosa, come ha detto lui, è continuata sul set in continuazione. Ogni mattina io e Gabriel stavamo lì ad aspettare la nuova scena, però sai, è molto bello se viene fatto un buon lavoro prima, e quindi tu sai chi sono i personaggi che stai andando a raccontare. Dover poi cambiare ogni tanto lievemente la direzione ti consente anche di scoprire delle cose che non avevi considerato, e quindi il film è figlio di questa improvvisazione emotiva che abbiamo avuto in continuazione, che è stata guidata, per quanto mi riguarda, dall'entusiasmo incredibile di quest'uomo, che mi ha fatto ricordare la bellezza del cinema, di un modo di fare cinema che io non vedo più tanto in giro, soltanto da pochi, perché ovviamente siamo invasi di numeri, di piattaforme, di ci dobbiamo sbrigare, di pareri e di cose, di giudizi. Quando invece lui è venuto a me e mi ha detto: io voglio fare questa storia. Poi mi ha chiamato Simone Gattoni e mi ha detto: il film lo facciamo noi, vuoi farlo? Sì. E poi da lì siamo andati a fare il film, come dovrebbe essere, pensando alla storia e alla bellezza di raccontare una storia, senza farsi troppi problemi rispetto a tutta un'altra serie di robe che ci importano meno. Quindi grazie Gianni, e anche grazie a questi due qua, che sono 2 attori straordinari e ci siamo divertiti un sacco. È stato bello far parte delle paturnie di Gabriel che ogni tanto mi chiamava e diceva: hai visto, ha cambiato la scena altre 7 volte. Dico: frate, andrà benissimo. E infatti è andata benissimo.
Gabriel.
Eccomi. Beh, che dire, per me è un'emozione grandissima, no? Di essere qui e soprattutto, scusate, sono emozionato perché Gianni Amelio è una grandissima persona, è un grandissimo regista e mi ha insegnato tanto. E scusate, sono emozionato.
Ma ce la faccio perché sul controllo sono bravo, diciamo. Allora, no, Gianni Amelio, allora, il cinema, no? E allora mi ha fatto capire cosa significa un'inquadratura, che per un attore tante volte, no, ha la presunzione di abdicare, no, in qualche modo, di resistere, no, di essere. Io sono un attore che vuole essere veramente tanto libero e questa cosa in qualche modo invece grazie al disegno che Gianni mi dava ogni giorno, no, insieme alla scena, mi dava sempre un disegno, ma non un disegno di carta, un disegno con le sue mani e mi faceva vedere, no, la direzione di questo disegno qua. Questa cosa qua mi ha fatto capire che agire come attori è anche saper leggere i registi, saper leggere le persone, saper leggere i colleghi, gli attori. È un lavoro, il cinema, che ti salva se lo fai insieme, se scarti, perché serve per quello che è l'idea del film, anche se muta, ma perché è vivo, perché se tutto questo non si muovesse, no, da quando nasce un film, il film non brucia, non arde. Io penso che ad oggi ci ritroviamo questo film proprio perché è sempre stato in movimento e questa sera io penso che arriveremo ad un punto tale che vedremo forse anche un altro film. E che dire, da attore per me è stata un'esperienza formidabile, mi ha fatto crescere tantissimo e sono molto emozionato di essere qui.
Grazie. Federica, il tuo personaggio è estremamente importante perché ci racconta una presa di coscienza ed è il personaggio che forse più cambia, no? Nell'arco di questa storia. Ci racconti un po' come hai lavorato su questo personaggio insieme a Gianni?
Certo, molto volentieri. Anch'io chiaramente dico solo una piccola cosa rispetto al fatto appunto che parte della domanda come è stato lavorare con Gianni. E questo è un film che ha due elementi naturali, preponderanti, il ghiaccio, la neve e il fuoco. E c'era sempre questa sensazione che di fronte alla pellicola meravigliosa, no? Questo specchio d'acqua apparentemente inviolabile anche quando era così violato, però perfetto apparentemente, c'era continuamente un ribollire di lava, un ribollire di desideri di fuga, perché credo che i nostri personaggi siano tutti personaggi che all'inizio stanno scappando da qualcosa, anche quando non lo sanno. E in questo soprattutto Anna, che è stata una delle cose che mi ha affascinato della prima lettura di questo film, è stata questa cosa di avere la sensazione di avere a che fare con un personaggio inafferrabile e perché lei stessa non riusciva a prendersi nelle mani e portarla poi alla fine dell'arco a invece essere colei che sta, colei che rimane, colei che offre un sistema differente nella cura del vivente, nella possibilità di guardare al mondo con occhi altri, diversi. Questo è stato per me fondamentale ed è stato bello anche essere in qualche modo gli occhi del pubblico, perché Anna è anche questo, è il ponte dello sguardo. E con Gianni ci dicevamo sempre, lui mi diceva tieni gli occhi aperti, e credo che fosse fondamentale perché appunto gli occhi dovevano essere questi laghi in cui il pubblico potesse specchiarsi per mangiare, rimasticare, riflettere su tutto ciò che vedeva. E per una volta, perché questo film ci ricorda anche quanto sappiamo dimenticare, per una volta non solo non dimenticare, ma prendere posizione, agire.
Una domanda lì?
Buongiorno, Stefania Ulivi, Corriere della Sera. La domanda è per Alessandro Borghi. È un film appunto sulla guerra, è un film che racconta anche una pandemia, ma racconta anche principalmente il senso di responsabilità di essere cittadino. Il medico Giulio sente che il suo dovere è salvare delle vite a costo di apparire anche poco patriottico. Ecco, ci puoi raccontare un po' di più il personaggio visto attraverso gli occhi di Alessandro Borghi? Grazie.
Grazie a te. Allora, il personaggio, come dicevo, appunto è stato frutto di un processo molto lungo e quindi di una scoperta continua. Questo vuol dire che fino al giorno prima di fare una scena, non sapevo esattamente che cosa saremmo andati a raccontare all'interno di quella scena, perché sapevo che Gianni ci avrebbe reso estremamente liberi rispetto alla modalità, rispetto alle sfumature, rispetto ai tempi. Quello che posso dirti è questo: il film ha moltissime tematiche. Ce n'è una che per me è molto importante perché è anche una cosa alla quale penso spesso nella mia di vita, che è la relatività del giusto e dello sbagliato. Che cosa vuol dire? Se noi prendiamo il nostro personaggio viene presentato, il mio scusate, come quello che sta contro la guerra, quindi il buono del film. Poi il film finisce e tu non lo sai in realtà se questo era il buono del film. Perché? Perché, e faccio questo altro piccolo esempio che ho fatto spesso oggi ma mi sembra molto utile, la capacità del cinema è quello di costruire un'empatia immediata. Che cosa vuol dire? Se io dico a te, Stefania, no? Se tu fossi stata la mamma di uno di quei soldati e questo fosse tornato a casa senza gambe per tornare a casa, quale sarebbe stato il tuo pensiero? E io me lo faccio lo stesso come papà adesso, no? Quindi è estremamente relativa alla scelta che si prende del metodo poco ortodosso di Giulio di andare contro la guerra. E questo ci consente allo spettatore di arrivare alla fine del film e dire: perfetto, ma che cosa ho visto? Dalla parte di chi sto? Chi ha ragione, no? E secondo me una vera risposta a questa cosa in questo film non c'è. Cioè io me ne vado sapendo che so contro la guerra da sempre e che, ripeto e ripeterò sempre, l'unico conflitto dal quale si esce vincitori è quello con noi stessi quando va bene, e tutto il resto secondo me non ha motivo di esistere. Però questo è un film che ci mette davanti ad una tematica importante, che è: ok, anche quello buono ha fatto veramente soltanto azioni giuste, buone, da poter essere considerato tale? Non lo so. Io ho fatto tutto il film pensando a Giulio come uno che segue il suo istinto per andare contro la follia della guerra, facendo una cosa che io, Alessandro, non avrei mai fatto, per esempio. E quindi la risposta qual è? Non lo so.
Alberto Taraglio, all'origine c'è un romanzo, no? La sfida di Carlo Patriarca. Come l'avete reso vostro questo romanzo attraverso il vostro lavoro?
È stata una cosa molto repentina e abbastanza curiosa, anche e soprattutto perché quando Gianni mi ha chiamato perché mi aveva detto di aver letto questo romanzo, che non era un vero e proprio romanzo, è uno strano libro a metà tra un saggio e un romanzo, dove ci sono alcuni elementi romanzeschi, però nella maggior parte dei casi si fa una specie di dissertazione filosofica sulla necessità o meno di intervenire su dei soldati per renderli appunto sciancati e impedire che tornino a combattere, quindi salvandogli la vita. Cosa è meglio, salvare una vita o salvare un'integrità diciamo organica, un corpo sano? E quindi era uno stranissimo libro che non era né un romanzo né un vero e proprio saggio, era una cosa che bisognava inventare completamente da zero. E questa cosa avveniva tra l'altro in un momento particolare. Uscivamo dalla pandemia, io ero come tutti, insomma, reduce da un anno passato in casa, non avevo lavoro, così come molti in quel periodo. Mi chiama lui e mi dice: ho trovato un romanzo che parla anche della pandemia e parla anche della prima guerra mondiale. Io in quel momento avevo appena finito di rileggere All'Ovest niente di nuovo di Remarque, quindi ero, come dire, la cosa mi ha fulminato, perché sembrava una coincidenza stranissima. E da quello abbiamo cominciato a vederci, come facciamo noi di solito, nella sua cucina, che è un nostro pensatoio, e abbiamo cominciato a mettere insieme una storia che non esisteva e che abbiamo creato dal nulla, piano piano, prendendo questi due personaggi, che erano due personaggi scritti per essere esemplari di qualcosa, di un'idea, e li abbiamo trasformati in personaggi in carne ed ossa. E poi abbiamo aggiunto gli altri, e poi abbiamo aggiunto l'ospedale, tenendo presente che quello che dovevamo raccontare è proprio il fatto che la guerra, in questo caso, non si svolgesse al fronte, ma si svolgesse in un ospedale e diventasse tanto più grave, tanto più violenta, raggiungesse l'apice, il culmine,
all'arrivo della pandemia, cioè quando dalla guerra si sarebbe passati ad un'altra guerra ancora più crudele. Considerate che i morti per la Prima Guerra Mondiale equivalgono a quelli per la pandemia della spagnola che ha seguito praticamente la Prima Guerra Mondiale, che ha fatto altrettanti morti tra i civili. Con una stranezza, tra l'altro, mentre il Covid colpiva soprattutto gli anziani, la spagnola colpiva soprattutto i bambini, quindi morivano dei bambini e delle persone giovani. Quindi c'era uno strano rivolgimento, anche perché noi abbiamo avuto invece il contrario. Prima è arrivata l'epidemia e poi è arrivata la guerra, quindi c'era una strana, appunto, Gianni ha sentito questa cosa, l'ha proprio avvertita come una specie di qualcosa di contemporaneo, proprio di accaduto, e ne abbiamo fatto un film come di solito bisognerebbe fare in questi casi, insomma.
Simone Gattoni e Paolo Del Broco, che sfida produttiva è stata il film di Amelio?
Buongiorno. È stata una sfida bellissima. Ogni tanto Gianni mi diceva: ma ce la facciamo? Dico: ma sì, ce la facciamo. E andavamo avanti un pezzo per volta. Sicuramente la ricostruzione storica è sempre una sfida produttiva, e devo dire però che questi signori e tutta la troupe sono stati degli angeli, perché sono andati a 2500 metri a girare a fine novembre. Io chiamavo Gianni, dico: Gianni, vengo su anch'io, vi do una mano. Fa: no, ma perché vieni a prendere freddo? Allora chiamavo il direttore di produzione e dico: come sta Gianni? Allora, Gianni sta da Dio, è tutto il resto della troupe che sono morti congelati e lui vuole andare avanti a girare. Quindi quando hai un condottiero così non ci si ferma, è molto complicato, però sai, ci sono degli anelli strani, a me piace pensare a fare dei percorsi. Con Gianni è il secondo film e senza ovviamente Rai Cinema sarebbe stato difficile fare una sfida di questo tipo. Ne parlammo la primissima volta, Gianni, se ti ricordi, a Castellarquato, dove eravamo a fare un sopralluogo di scrittura per Il Signore delle Formiche. E c'era questa cosa, eravamo lì a tavola, si chiacchierava, perché con Gianni si parla sempre di cinema, perché bisogna prendere il più possibile. E io dissi: mi piacerebbe tanto fare un film su Caporetto. Ci sto, non avevamo ancora girato l'altro, e su un tovagliolo dico: ok, facciamo un film su Caporetto. E da lì poi è iniziato questo lungo processo, però è stato molto complicato. Però io credo fortemente che in quest'epoca in cui si cercano formule, non per trovare il successo, che non esiste quella cosa, no? Cioè ma non le cercano nemmeno le formule, cercano le formule per la medietà. Quello che diceva Alessandro prima, avere invece una voglia di provare a raccontare, darsi da fare e sfidarsi, è la vera essenza del cinema. E loro, secondo me, hanno accettato questa sfida e ci hanno condotto anche a noi. Noi poi siamo, diciamo, secondari su certe cose, ecco. È bello sostenere quando vedi questo gruppo di lavoro così caldo e affiatato.
Grazie. E Paolo?
Ma guarda, intanto io veramente mi complimento con Simone, perché ormai si è specializzato in film molto complicati produttivamente e questo lo è stato anche questo. Per quanto riguarda Rai Cinema è molto semplice aderire a questo tipo di film. Credo che con Gianni abbiamo fatto tutti i film e non è che è difficile decidere se investire o meno, non ci pensiamo nemmeno, non c'è nemmeno un pensiero. È come, oltre alla stima enorme per il maestro che fa dei film meravigliosi, è anche forse l'amico che viene la domenica a pranzo a mangiare le tagliatelle, come dire, una cosa, e quindi è una situazione anche di calore, come dire, non so come spiegarla, e quindi siamo molto felici di essere qui un'altra volta al Festival di Venezia con un grande film, con degli attori strepitosi, e che dire, tutto bene. Il cinema è bello quando i film sono belli.
Grazie, ci fermiamo qui, grazie a tutti. Grazie. No.
Al tempo, scusate, al tempo. Allora, io voglio bene a tutte le persone che sono sedute qua. Va bene?
Tranne a?
Però, no, a tutti. Però, in prima fila sono sedute delle persone che io avrei voluto qua, però non c'è posto.
Guarda quanti siamo.
Allora, andiamo confusamente, né in ordine alfabetico né in ordine di amore. C'è Luigi, c'è Samantha e c'è Luan. Perché questo gelo? No, perché non vi ho detto chi sono. Cioè, Luigi è mio fratello, Samantha è mia figlia, e Luan è mio vero figlio. Luan, alzati per favore. Ho parlato di colui che dirige 01, che è la distribuzione, e che mi sta accanto quando parliamo di una sala di una certa città o di un'altra. Samantha è una colonna di Rai Cinema, però viene dal cinema fatto con me. Lei ha fatto con me Il ladro di bambini e L'America. Luan si chiama Amelio e non è solo mio figlio, ma è il direttore della fotografia di questo film. Per cui se si vede qualcosa, se gli attori hanno recitato bene, si vede che hanno recitato bene, vuol dire che sono illuminati bene, perché la luce poteva anche essere messa verso il soffitto e quindi vuol dire che c'è una grande luce, non una bella fotografia, perché Luan sa che, eppure io lo so, non amiamo la bella fotografia, amiamo la giusta fotografia. E lui non solo è stato bravo a fare questo, ma è stato come gli antichi operatori, quelli degli anni 60 che io ho vissuto, perché ho un'età, è stato come il pilastro del film, perché il regista è un pazzo, e si sa. Gli attori vanno, vengono, sono matti pure loro, fanno parte di un manicomio di cui siamo complici, questa volta in 4. Lui è invece la persona seria, quella a cui ci si rivolge per un problema, a cui fanno capo quelli della produzione, i tecnici, i capireparto, perché lui non parla, perché anche
ma noi gli facciamo ancora un applauso. Gianni, io odio interromperti, ma devo farlo.
Va bene.
Grazie a tutti.
Ciao. Grazie. Non si fa.
Buongiorno, e grazie per essere venuti alla conferenza stampa del nostro film in concorso The Order. Prima di cominciare introduco i nostri ospiti partendo dalla destra in fondo. Ty Sheridan. Nicholas Holt. Journey Smollett. Jude Law. Lo sceneggiatore del film Zach Bailin e il regista Justin Kurzel. E segnalo anche in sala la presenza dei produttori Brian Haas, Stuart Ford, Kate Sussman, Ben Jackson e Stephen Fuss. Ok, vedo già delle mani alzate, quindi cominciamo da lì.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations on the movie. What's really sad and scary about it is if this was made yesterday, if this was made today, or if this will be made tomorrow, the same kind of hate is going to still exist in the world. And I just found it fascinating how you the actors especially, navigate people when you're confronted with that kind of hate. And I was wondering if you could just maybe share, has that ever happened in your own life? And how do you, like I said, how do you navigate that? Do you confront? If you were to meet a character like Nicholas's, who can be charismatic and charming, but filled with such, veracity. So if you guys could share, that'd be great.
You have to press the button.
Press the button, buddy.
Thank you very much. As I was saying, and that's the answer, really. No, the interesting thing about Bob is he does prey on the disenfranchised and the unhappy and the kind of lonely. So I think that's a big part of how he assembles this group in the movie is, yes, he can be charismatic and charming and seem like a good leader, despite his terrible plans and ideology. But at the same time, it's who he goes after that kind of cements that group. So I think that's something that we can learn from the movie.
How would you navigate?
I
think the film speaks for itself. I don't know that it's about our own personal experience of meeting someone like Bob Matthews.
Jude, you're also a producer of the film.
Yeah.
And what is it about this material that made you want to make it? It's a great story. It's a wonderful potential of a thriller. But why did you see the relevance of it?
Well, sadly, the relevance I think speaks for itself. What amazed me was it was a story I hadn't heard of before, and I thought Zach did an amazing job of also highlighting really family and how community and a sense of family can make people feel safe, secure, no matter where they're going, in what direction in their life, politically or emotionally. It just felt also like a piece of work that needed to be made now. It's always interesting looking back, but it's always interesting finding a piece from the past that has some relative, relationship to the present day.
I think there was a question here. She's coming.
Yes. Judy, first of all, extraordinary performances from everybody. What a great film. And I wonder, Zach, how much you fictionalized for dramatic purposes from the reality. And for Jude, the spectacular work you've done, it's like another character up there that has no connection to you. Can you talk about, where you picked him out of, how you defined him?
Well, I would say that with Jude's character Husk, he was very much an amalgamation and a composite of a number of law enforcement agents who followed this case, and and who tracked down Bob Matthews. But then I think the characterization and what we all collectively came to try to do with Husk, and I'll let Jude speak more specifically about it, but was to create someone who we really felt the toll of this career of having to kind of battle these groups, and to the amount of sacrifice that he would have experienced and gone through in the pursuit of this kind of justice. And so I think that character really was, we had sort of created the archetype of it, and then when we got to set and started really developing it with everyone together, that Jude and Justin were, you know, very, very instrumental in sort of bringing out the specificity of who we wanted him to be. And so Jude can probably speak more to that.
It was important that he was an amalgam of fabrication, because we wanted to be able to position him in the story just so, and so to have had to base him on the agents wouldn't have really given us that freedom. And so just to follow on from what Zach said, what was interesting to me was playing someone who thought that the battle was done. There was something very interesting that he, to me, represents an awful lot of us, meaning, you know, he felt that his hardest work was behind him, and suddenly he had possibly his biggest task yet ahead. And it felt a little bit like a lot of us now, maybe, where we feel like, you know, if you could have said 10 years ago that perhaps the world was in a slightly different state, and that, in fact, we've still got a lot of work to do. What was wonderful working with Justin was just being able to really lean in, bed in the authenticity of this guy, his relationship or non-relationship with his family, the crutches that he's sort of lent on to survive and to get through this life, whether it was the smoking, the drinking, all of that taking its toll. And it was always interesting. We always wanted to create this, the question, can he do it? Will he do it? Because he was up against such a formidable force.
I want to follow up with a question to Justin, because it's the sense of reality of the film and the sense of the reality of the characters and of the place. I'd like for you to speak a little bit how do you capture that, because it's part of the beauty of the film, the sense that it's there and it's real. There is very little stylization. It feels like you know that environment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been wanting to do an American film for some time, and a lot of the films that made me want to be a filmmaker, like The French Connection and you know, All the President's Men, Mississippi Burning, they're all these fantastic 70s dramatic thrillers, and you know, unfortunately, it's becoming harder and harder to make those sort of films. So this was an incredible opportunity. After reading Zach's script, it was really obvious that I could lean a little bit on the simplicity of some of those films in the way in which they were shot, which was very sort of classic and simple, and the characters felt very grounded and didn't have to sort of reach too much. They could be part of a world, which was why the locations and the actual place was really important to me, that the actors felt part of the place. So yeah, I think a lot of the inspiration sort of came from my love affair with films, why I started making them, what grabbed me as a 13, 14-year-old, the sort of acting style and the sort of worlds that I sort of never wanted to end on screen.
Thank you. I think we have someone here.
Good day, Oraz Kiribaev, writing for 98 Magazine from Kazakhstan. My question goes to all of you, whoever wants to jump in. The order is obviously, it is a cautionary tale of what might happen today as well, and it is pretty relevant given the fact that this year we have the elections in the US, and we can see how easy it is to manipulate people and to destroy the existing order if you have enough resources. My question is there anything you would like to tell American citizens or politicians amid the upcoming elections? Whoever wants to jump, thanks.
I think the film is very particular to an event and a point in time in the early 80s. I think what was shocking to me, and I think to all of us, was that there were so many comparisons, and I think so many things within the film were the seed and the germination of today, and many of the challenges that I think we face. And that's always an extraordinary thing when you can find a piece of writing or an event that comes from the past, that has some sort of perspective, and for it to intimately have a conversation with today's politics, that's a rare gem. So, you know, we felt as though there was a lot that was being said about today in the making of the film.
And this is one right there.
Hi, good morning. Maria Guerra, Quinótico, Spain. Well, this is a kind of follow-up question because these events took place 40 years ago, and this cult was regarded or considered a criminal group, but unfortunately the ideology grew, and somehow, in America, grew popular. And I kept wondering, are American values in dispute now?
Sorry?
Are the American values, because the perspective is, or then was that this is evil, this is right. But I think 40 years later, America is completely divided. So as a foreigner, I wonder, I kept wondering whether you think that American values are in dispute now.
I think we live at a time now that was reflected in the film where, you know, there is division and there's a lot of conversation about the future and about ideologies. And I think the film, you know, was about an ideology that's incredibly dangerous and how it can quickly take seed. I mean, that's, you know, that's what we're sort of focused on in the film is I think how a particular voice, definitely speaking to disenfranchised, those that feel invisible or unheard, can very dangerously start to exploit that vulnerability. I think that's a timeless thing. You know, not only in America, I'm Australian. I think similar conversations and divisions are happening in Australia as well and many other places.
Journey, did you want to add something?
I was just going to add, yeah, I mean, I think the history of America is very complex. And if you look back throughout history, whether we're talking about the Jim Crow South or the Tulsa race riots in 1921 or the Oklahoma City bombing, like, this level of bigotry is not new. And unfortunately, it has existed in our nation since our nation was founded. And one of the beautiful things about art is that we get to hold a mirror up to society. We get to reflect society back to it, you know, and we get to explore the very complex sides of humanity, the ugliness, the darkness, in order for us to learn from it, hopefully, to not repeat it. So it is like you said, the film could have been made at any moment and it would have been relevant, you know, unfortunately. But I think that's the great privilege that we have as artists, you know, it's to be able to help the fight injustice, you know, and be able to illuminate some of these ugly sides of our history.
I have a follow-up question to Nicholas. Nicholas, when you were working on this character and becoming him, what did you imagine were the reasons or the sources of this young man who's bright and beautiful, of marginalization, of rather self-marginalizing himself?
That was an interesting thing to dig through. The Silent Brotherhood, the book that this was based on, was obviously very useful in terms of researching Bob's life. And interestingly, a lot of the times when you go back through people's childhood, you think maybe sometimes too much as actors. We're like, oh, let's find the key of what turned them this way, what happened. And with Bob, there wasn't necessarily clear, definite things in some ways, which was almost more worrying. You know, he subscribed to the John Birch Society and then joined some other extreme groups through his youth. And it was based on a lot of fear, I think, his core beliefs and obviously hatred and all these terrible ideas and thoughts. But going back to if you met someone like Bob today, what he provided to people who were lonely and looking for family was he provided that to them. And that was the scary thing about him, I think, approaching him as a character, was that he wasn't someone, he could be quite disarming probably upon first interactions, and there was things that you could probably be put under his spell. But then the really special thing, obviously, there was, especially working with Justin this time, I'm lucky this is the second time working with him, but he gave, I think, all of us like manifestos for our characters. And I've never kind of prepared in this way before, where Justin gave us tasks, which I just found out on the boat here. One of Jude's tasks was to follow me for a day. And I didn't know that he would, I just found out that he did this, that he was like trailing me for a day when I landed in Calgary. And so there were all these things like, and we didn't even speak for the first 4 weeks, 5 weeks of filming. Jude and I didn't interact at all. We were kept separate, and the crew were fantastic in this. They kind of really enjoyed this idea of keeping us as different forces throughout the film. And so we didn't interact at all. I remember seeing you in the rearview mirror of my car and then following you, but otherwise, the first time we spoke was during the scene where we first interact, and that gave a great energy to those moments. So that was the really special thing about working with all of these people and with Justin, was just his preparedness and how he prepared us to play these characters, because they are very difficult. It's a difficult story to tell and difficult characters to inhabit. So he made it as easy as possible, I suppose.
There was a question here, Ellen.
Helen Barlow from Australia. Hi. Perfect follow-up, actually, because I just think this is the best film I've seen here so far. It's just fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
And I just wondered, I mean, Jude is normally the matinee idol, like in The Young Pope. When he was here, he glistened along the screens. I mean, and Nicholas this time, of course, is the handsome one. What was it like to kind of rough it up and not be the matinee idol looks? But also Justin casting British people, you know, I mean, and an Australian Odessa. Why did you do that when it's such an American story?
I've just always cast people that I desperately want to work with. And I'd worked with Nick before and absolutely adore him and think he's an extraordinary talent. I'd admired Jude for so long, and there was something in this character, and I think having conversations with Jude about sort of, I guess, how different this particular character was for him, that really excited me. He had a sort of way into it that was just very grounded, and there was a sort of failing about that character that I think was really interesting. In the same way, we talked a lot about like Gene Hackman and Paul Newman in a way, in terms of just how extraordinary those actors were at playing characters with failings, yet you still adored them and were rooting for them. And Ty, huge fan, and Journey, huge fan. So it really is first and foremost who I just want to be on set with, and they're beautiful people to be on set with, and it makes the whole experience creatively invigorating and interesting. So yeah, I usually don't look at the passports before I cast.
There's a question down there.
There's definitely a handsomeness.
I didn't really think about that. I mean, there was a sort of lived-in quality to him that I enjoyed investigating. There was a lot of discussion about facial hair, and but I mean, every agent I interviewed had a mustache, so it just was a given. I had to grow a mustache. It was almost it almost became a joke that every agent I interviewed had an enormous tash. So that just became, I guess I was hiding behind that.
There was a question down there. That was down there, yeah.
Hi, Tori Brazier from Metro in the UK. Question for you, Nicholas, and then potentially one for Jude to weigh in on. You played a neo-Nazi. That's incredibly dark. How did you navigate the research of that, and how far you kind of delved into the ideology? And then I wondered, given the race riots in the UK in the past few weeks, if that's made either you or Jude kind of look at the film in a different way? Because it's quite an American story, and then that seemed to make it, can happen anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is an American story, but I think, as we've all discussed in terms of it being relevant today, that sadly being true, it's also a global thing at the moment, which is just a horrible situation. And hopefully the film, perhaps if people see it, shedding more light on how these sorts of events occur and the people that are instigating them can kind of help prevent it happening anymore in the future. In terms of the research, I had to delve into a lot of horrible, dark stuff that wasn't enjoyable. So that was, Justin helped me a lot through that, Zach, and research. And I don't really know what else to say about it, to be honest with you, apart from it wasn't very nice. And it was part of the job on this one, yeah.
I think the strength of the film also lies in the plausibility of how you make it see as plausible. It doesn't feel like a hyperbole, that something like this can happen, that someone can turn and organize. And it's a testament to the writing and to the directing and to all the actors. So I want to ask also Ty and Journey. When films are made about Middle America, or they can be condescending. They can be caricatures. And instead here, all the characters have a realness and a respect for their circumstances, which is really important in a film like this because it makes it travel farther. So Ty and Journey, you haven't talked much about your own characters yet, but what was your manifest?
Well, I think that's one of the film's great achievements, is that, it's highly focused on the family unit, and it's a great piece on exploring how people from a small community can be manipulated by extreme ideology. I grew up in a small town, and the population of my town is 1,200, so I definitely, have seen certain things growing up where people are a product of their environment, and especially in these subcultures in the U.S., I think you have a specific ideology that is kind of descended from the people of generations and living in this small community and not having any exposure. So I think that was one thing that really drew me to this project, and one thing that I think one area where I think the film excels in exploring that and capturing it authentically. And you're right, it's not often captured authentically. So I think Zach with his writing and Justin with the direction did an amazing job of that. And that was one thing that was very, very exciting, for me about this film.
Yeah, one of the things Zach and Justin and I spoke about when it came to Carney, we spoke about a number of things, but these cases, in my research, I interviewed a lot of Black and Latinx former special agents. And it became very clear to me early on how some of these cases were very personal for them. And how even though you go to work, you still take work home. And it's a theme that Husk and Carney both share, in that work is everything. It's their identity in life. And they've sacrificed a life in order to have it. As Carney, being a Black woman in a cis white male workplace, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What is she trying to prove? I mean, there were so many beautiful questions that we just kind of had back and forth. And what I love so much about the filmmaker's approach, between Justin and Zach, it was less is more. Less is more. And so much can be told through, a look or an interaction. And I just loved working with Justin on set. I mean, it was one of the best experiences I've had with a filmmaker, because he creates such an environment where you feel safe to fail, you feel safe to try, you feel safe to just explore. We did a lot of improv, and sometimes he was just sitting on the side of the camera, and he'd whisper something. And it was a real beautiful dance between all of us, because the topics were dark and heavy. But I think we had such an awesome leader in you, Justin.
Oh, thank you, Jenny.
I think there's one right there.
Hi, my name is Lena Bassi, the NITV Ukraine. My question is to Justin and Jude. I would like to ask you about this very important scene where Terry hunts a deer, and this scene repeats at the end again. And I would like to listen about your take on this scene. Thank you very much.
You go, man.
Yeah, the evolution of that, I think I'm right in saying, came from an early iteration when Husk was really trying to escape, right, and almost retire. And so he wanted to take up hunting and fishing and just sort of disappear and lose himself in nature. And then I think this is right. Justin's antennae as a director sort of saw the potential of that visual image of the stalking, the hunting, and this is also prefaced by saying that I think early on we decided that he'd be really bad at it. Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we were going to sort of see him fishing, but like messing up the fishing, and but of course instead it became this rather beautiful motif, and. Obviously, there are the obvious parallels of him stalking, him hunting someone, a prey, an outlaw, whoever it may be, and this sense that he is always on the hunt and that the hunt never ends, but that equally there's, interesting moments halfway through when he almost has empathy for the deer, for the stag, and can't quite bring himself. So it's a kind of relationship, I think, with him and whatever it is or whoever it is he's hunting. And of course, there's a beautiful moment, when he's observed by Bob having a dilemma. So it was really just playing on that motif, I think. Am I right?
Yeah. I think it had many meanings. At one stage, I thought it was like you looking at yourself. It had this lovely sort of self-reflective feel about it. And it changed a lot, I think, from the script, Zach, wasn't it? It was, but and it's hard with these motifs because you don't want them to be overbearing or literal. You want them to really speak to the character and the journey of the character. And there's something about that landscape where we filmed that a landscape does speak to you. And there was sort of something about this film where it felt like these mountains, these skies, these animals have been here way, way, way before us, and they're sort of watching back at us. So the elk had a watchfulness over all the characters that was that seemed to evolve as we were filming up there. I don't know. Talked a lot about the elk?
No, I think we've covered it. But I think Justin's whole approach to sort of the entire film had such a naturalism to it, and I think that he in doing that, I think he was able to bring out a lot of the sort of symbolism that was in the story without having it feel too pre-programmed or didactic. I think there's something just so kind of haunting about ending the film in that way. And this, I think Brian, the producer, and I sort of from the beginning talked a lot about just the idea of the constant presence of these kinds of events and the constant struggle it takes for the law enforcement to continue to have to sort of mount up again and again, even when they've felt like exhausted by their experiences, and then the tolls have been so hard, but that you continue on. And I think that was something that we had talked about a lot from the beginning.
I'm sorry, they call me for time. We ran out of time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, congratulations. Buongiorno e benvenuti alla conferenza stampa del nostro film fuori concorso Baby Invasion. E vi presento, prima di cominciare, gli ospiti a partire dalla mia destra in fondo. Gaspar, il responsabile degli effetti speciali del film Joao Rosa e il regista del film Harmony Korine. So I'm going to start with a question to Harmony. No, just kidding. No, don't worry.
Well, I don't need this, right?
No, you don't. You don't if I speak English. How would you describe this as a progression from Agrogrift, the film that you had in Venice a year ago?
It's a progression. It's a progression because since that movie, I discovered that nothing was real, and that it was all a fabrication, and that I was like, oh, now I started to hang out with. I've been working with a lot of coders and engineers, and we're starting to notice certain things, certain glitches. In the glitches like glitches in the Matrix, and kind of, and I was starting to understand that actually, it's all fake, it's all design, and then that freed me up as an artist, and we were kind of like, let's do something that feels like it has a real world creation, a sense of of kind of limitlessness. And so we wanted to create almost like a horror portal that was closer to an experience than it was maybe what you would call a traditional movie.
It's also a step further into the language of video game. In fact, it is in a video game. Why did you choose that?
Well, it's a game, but one of the things we haven't talked about is that when we release the film, there will be a way to watch it on you can watch it through your phone, but there'll be certain codes within the movie that'll take you to other movies. So the film actually, this is what you're seeing is just the base layer film, we'll call it, and then there'll be 3 or 4 others that you can watch simultaneously or afterwards that will kind of, you'll be able to play them. They'll have different points of view from different characters.
So it's an interactive quality?
Yeah, there'll be 3 or 4 other sub-films under the film.
Then there's a question here.
Hi, Harmony. Christian Pogadas from Austria. So you've always been someone who tried to push the limits of what cinema can be, with Agrodrift and now Baby Invasion having a sort of video gamey feel to them. So what's the next step in your evolution of a filmmaker, and where do you feel is the cinema future headed into?
I mean, I think the next step is going to just be, we'll be able to dream the movies. I think at some point, we're just working on technology now in the rooms where we'll be able to actually just go from thought to image, not even text to image or image to image. We'll be able to work on just basically dreaming movies.
There's a question here.
Hello. I wanted to ask you about distribution plans. What made you decide to distribute this kind of film?
in this way? Because I remember that Agrodrift had like a special kind of distribution in the United States. What made you want to distribute the film that way?
I haven't even announced how I'm distributing it.
No, I was talking about your previous release, Agrodrift.
Oh, the last one?
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be cool. It was nice going to the strip clubs, and you know, it just felt like the right time to hit it.
Can you and Joao possibly speak a little bit about the visual language and the choices you've made?
Yeah, so there's actually footage. The visual language, we made this kind of clone, and Joao can talk about it too, but and Gaspar even can talk about it, but we made it from, it was closer to like a music, where we were building over the course of a year layers. I knew that I had a lot of friends and people, and there's some of the actual imagery in the film that's actual real imagery of people raiding houses of friends and people that I know, that we incorporated into the film. But I wanted to do, you know, I like to play a lot of first-person shooter games, so I was like, why can't we just use that as like a base template and then create this thing that was like a kind of a virtual portal into, in some ways it's a religious film, and different layers of almost like it's like Book of Revelations or The Pale Horse, where you're entering kind of like these like dystopian realms. And they coincide with different elements in gaming and lore of gaming, and obviously back rooms and all these kind of like, visual portals that take you into like almost like a hypnotic trance-like state.
Joe? Mike.
I think, like many people mentioned, like many people mentioned, it is an evolution or continuation of Agrodrift's experimentation with game language. So in this one, it was really how to make a film with gameplay footage, but this gameplay footage that is both. I think it's gonna. I'm interested in seeing how it's going to be revealed or discover, like what's, even to ourselves, like what's real, what's things that we found. And the interesting thing is how we weaved all into a film with even with like Gaspar's mysterious, contributions and etc.
Gaspar, do you want to add something? I think that the choice of having baby faces on the invader is very visual. It's visually very striking.
Yeah.
It also seems to say something about youth, and a lot of your films have that really visceral impact, a relationship with the younger generation.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, also because it's horror, right? Because what they're doing is horrible, but they're also so cute. They're so adorable to watch, and so these little children are just such menace, just vile creatures. But it's also like a ride. The concept really comes from like the moment, this idea that people will in the future or even now start to live stream their crimes, and this is now entertainment in a lot of ways for people, and it's a form of clout, and then it's also there's elements of kind of with babies and birth and a kind of there's like also a spiritual element to kind of the rage.
Because of the first person identification, overlapping, there is an identification with the invaders, themselves. How did you negotiate? And it's something you and I discussed over the phone when I saw the film. The whole idea of empathy, because you have become them in a way, and so how do you want an audience to negotiate that?
I don't really have I want the audience, it's an experience. It's not even something to figure out or to, it's more meant to kind of wash over you. Some of the cast were actually people that tried to rob a lot of the people, friends of mine. Once they were arrested, then we cast them. And then it just kind of added that kind of extra sense of, reality. And then we were also thinking about, you know, a lot of us play first-person shooter games, and there's this obsession with reality in first-person shooters. So then we were like, maybe this is like the ultimate FPS.
You want to add something?
Yeah, it's, you know, the process of making this film is really like, we build something, we show harmony, and then we realize we can push it so much further. And, you know.
It's like it's like because we do feel dead inside in a lot of ways, and so we're trying to push. We want to excite ourselves with this, right? Because no one is giving this to us, so we create it. Because it's an experience, you want something that's beyond a kind of simple articulation, and that goes into something that maybe is difficult to define, but it's more based in vibration than it is in a kind of logic. It's maybe post-logic or something new.
Still, beside the invasion itself, the film has a narrative. You know, you have a voiceover, and you do have the track running.
Yes.
So there is a commentary. There are multiple levels of.
No, totally. There's like 9 or 10 stories within the story.
And it's like Harmony mentioned, you know, we have a room of engineers, and like their pastime sometimes is just going in these forums and learning about this, you know, crazy stuff. But still, Harmony is able to find out even crazier. I can't even tell what are the things that come from Harmony's brain and in the world building process, and what are things that he found that really exist. So even to me, that's really unclear.
And we don't work with any scripts. There's no scripts. We just work with ideas. So there's absolutely no, there's concepts, and there's thoughts, and there's imagery, and there's story, but there's not scripts.
So how do you progress?
It's like layers. It's like, so for example, the first base layer was just security camera footage of robberies, just first person, just from a first person shooter perspective of just the robberies. It was very much set up like a play with hundreds of cameras, and then you would go through the actions, and they would last for hours, and there would be no directors, cinematographers. We would just wire the rooms. And then from there, you say, oh, you start to watch it and you feel, and then it started to build, and you're, oh, what's interesting is if there's skins for the characters that you could change, and it starts to, as the narrative progresses, these different kind of pop-up storylines in back rooms, and then this would be nice if it feels like more gameplay, and then we would add, obviously, all the kind of assets. We would create all the assets and everything to kind of, and then we would sit with that and then build it. It was mostly built in the rooms with technology and dreams.
And the voiceover you write when?
Yeah, the voiceover was written, but then, you know, there was all these ASMR rooms on OnlyFans, and and this woman had this amazing voice, and so we just had her read the.
There's a question here.
Hi. So with your Aggro Drift and now Baby Invasion, you took a lot of inspiration from shooters and first-person shooter games. And for your future films, do you have in mind other genres or video games to take inspiration from?
I mean, it's endless. Yeah. RPGs. We could do. You know, it's kind of. It's not just gaming, it's also, and this idea of just movies even is maybe not even the right way to think about things. I'm not really even thinking about movies anymore. It's more kind of experiences. And one thing I would say to anyone that listens is you need to encourage, and Hollywood needs to, and they don't need to, but they would be smart to encourage the youth, the kids. And because what's happening in Hollywood, and you're starting to see Hollywood crumble, I think creatively, is that they're losing a lot of the most talented and creative minds to gaming and to streamers. Like, I Show Speed is a movie. Kai Cenat is a movie. Like, but really, they're so locked in on convention. And then all those kids that are so creative are now just going to find other outlets and go other places, because movies are no longer the dominant art form. Always they were the dominant art form, but nothing is linear anymore. And so they're going to start to lose all the talent to all these other places. And film is going to, not all film, but a lot of film will just stagnate and be just huge IP, or just this kind of very rarefied experience. But I Show Speed is, you know, the new Tarkovsky.
How would you envision, ideally, Baby Invasion to be shared with, you know, after you move on from here? What's the idea?
How do we put it out? I think we're going to put it out in different ways. We're still planning it. Like I said, the movie will come out, and then there's 4 other movies under the film. So this is the base layer. Then you'll have, you know, then you'll be able to scan QR codes with your phone, and then those will take you to games and other perspectives from other shooters and players in the film. So really, the film itself, the whole thing is probably, we have, you know, maybe 80 hours of film, but this is the base layer. So.
One question there.
Hello? Okay. Elise from Variety here. I know that Burial did the score for this.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about how he got involved.
I mean, Burial's amazing. It's a, you know, he's a legend. We love Burial. I don't actually want to say too much about that because I respect his, but we, you know, got in touch with each other, and I've never actually met Burial, and I've never actually spoken to Burial. So it's all done through Discord messages, and we both we kind of talk on PS5. So, and then the music was sent on in clips through PS5.
Did you send the footage?
Yeah. He scored the movie. Yeah.
Based on
Yes. Yeah.
There's one there.
Hi, I wanted to ask, since your past film, Agro-Drift, and now this one are presented at this film festival, which is one of the main events for movies around the world, I was wondering, how do you reconcile your kind of pushing the boundaries of storytelling and trying to merge video games and movies with presenting your movie at a film festival, which is like an institution in this area? How do you reconcile these two words that kind of seem like opposites in a way?
Yes, but opposites attract. And what we're doing is the greatest. And so we're just kicking up against it. And we have no fear. And it's all just what it is. Perfect.
Oh, there's one here. Aspetta il microfono.
I think a lot, when I saw the movie, I think a lot about trash humpers. The concept of that film was upgraded in some way, the thing you said about the records of shooting in POV, an upgrade, but in this sense. You thought it in that way? You reminded about it, the movie?
What is that? I didn't hear. What was the reference?
Duchamp.
Trash humpers. Trash humpers.
Duchamp?
Trash humpers.
Oh, trash humpers.
No, I wasn't thinking about Duchamp.
Ah, okay.
Duchamp?
No, trash humpers.
Trash
A trash humper.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I wasn't. I don't think about any of the films. Everything is new. You start. I don't even watch my movies. I don't even like to know the color of my own eyes.
How would you describe the project that is behind your production company? You know, that this is the second work that you have done with it.
Yeah.
And what's the ambition and the scope that you want to
So Edgelord is the company that we have in Florida, and Joao and Gaspar and many people. It's closer to like a design collective. It's half the company is really just based in technology and creating what kind of are an entry point into what's about to happen next. So it's a way that we can start to visualize what the future of, we can say, like nonlinear entertainment or design or aesthetics is, but it's all based in technology. So we're creating, we're working with everything from VFX and gaming engines, artificial intelligence, and creating our own LLMs, and really like trying to basically push things in a certain direction. We want to be architects in a lot of ways of what's to come.
There's very little, that happens outside of the rooms when we're creating these films and et cetera. And from the beginning, Harmony has always expressed, not as a director, but just expressed the idea of getting films out of thin air, just like.
What we're trying to say is that like films, or this idea of conventional films, is ending. I mean, they're still going to exist, but we're just now, something is ending and something is being born. And so films, or what we call films, are changing, and there'll be experiences, and now we'll be able to experience them. We're working on a horror movie right now that takes place in your bedroom, and the characters are in your house.
Which is Baby Invasion, or is it?
No, another thing. Yeah, we're building the technology, so where the movies actually take place in your house.
Now that you officially retired me, and all of us together, you used. There was a time in your work where you used to actually go out with a camera and film things.
Yeah.
And that relationship with the eye and the reality was very, very strong and very, very powerful. So I'm wondering if that is something you miss, or just the revelation you had that there is really no reality. It just nullifies that pathos, that empathy that works between the eye and the world.
Yeah, I don't, because it's really within the rooms, and we do, and we still do regular shooting, but we incorporate it into other, with other things. I still enjoy shooting things. It's just that now you start to really understand what the possibilities are, and the levels of world creation are starting to become limitless. In some ways, this is the most creative, most interesting time to be alive, to be a creator, because right now, for the first time, I'm starting to feel like technology is really starting to be at the same level of your dreams, and your brain. And so it's exciting. It's overwhelming to a lot of people, but I think once you start to like understand and see what's about to happen, then it's limitless.
Is there anyone else? I think we're okay. Okay, I think if you want to add anything, Harmony. Oh, there's one right there. Yeah.
I was just curious about what attracts you to shooting or making these pieces of art about violence or violent individuals.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a kind of a horror portal. A lot of the language of violence is very prevalent. Living in America, it's something that you almost you can become immune to. In some ways, it becomes part of the vernacular of not just horror, but just life. And so it's just it's just part of the lore of this film.
Okay, I think this is all we have time for. Sorry.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gaspar. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, John. Woo!